We are going to talk about this. Welcome to Draft Utopia. We are going to talk about the Senior Bowl. But first, I'm going to give you guys a quick, brief midseason update on my top 31 from my initial NHL mock draft. And you can go over to Draft Prospect Hockey to read the whole article. I'm not going to go through every single detail, but the main point I'm going to tackle here is the top 3 at the beginning of the year was McKenna, Verhoff, and Stenberg. But Verhoff is no longer number 1. McKenna is no longer number 1 on every board. Verhoff is number 1 on 2 scouting services, and Steve Ellis of Daily Faceoff came out yesterday and said there are NHL teams that have Ivor Stenberg ahead of Gavin McKenna. They think he's more mature, more NHL ready. And I also heard a rumor that Stenberg was so good at the World Junior Championships in Dallas that Jim Nill and the Dallas Stars already have him number 1 on their board. But they don't have a pick until the second round. They only have 4 selections, so it really doesn't matter if they have him at number 1. But other teams, they like to copy, they like to have success, they like to replicate success. And if the 3-time GM of the year has a player number 1 on his board, guess what? Other teams are going to want to take that player to make sure the 3-time GM of the year doesn't get him, even if it means taking that player number 1 over an exceptional talent like McKenna. But regardless, McKenna, Stenberg, and Verhoff, that was the top 3 in October. That's going to be the top 3. It's just instead of it being Verhoff's clear-cut number 2, McKenna's clear-cut number 1, Stenberg's clear-cut number 3, there's a little bit more drama with the top 3. You don't know who's going to go number 1, who's going to go number 2, who's going to go number 3, and the lottery's sort of going to play out that top 3. And usually we don't get this type of drama in the NHL draft when it comes to the number 1 pick. Usually it's the NFL draft or it's the MLB draft or it's the MLS draft where we get this crapshoot, where we get this drama leading up to the draft, Joey. Hockey and basketball are the 2 sports where it's very common for the consensus top 3 players to remain exactly as they are. And that's just a point I want to emphasize briefly here. I'm going to move on to number 4. Ryan Lynn, this guy, he's kind of small, but he did have 2 seasons of 50 points. Very consistent defender. Was my preseason number 4 player. Only a few scouting services have him still in the top 4, but I do think he has done enough to remain in the top 10. Rubric, this was a guy who was, he was top 5 pick in the preseason. Now they're saying he might fall to round 2. And, he's still projected to have 80 points. He had 87 last year. He's still on pace to get 80 points, but people are moving him out of the first round. It's like this guy went from 6'4", 190 to 216. He added 26 pounds of muscle. There's still 3 scouting services out of 15 that have him at number 5, but there's a lot of people panicking because the production's not what it was last year. And this is a very common trend in all sports, whether it's college football, whether it's hockey. If the production your +1 year is better than your production your draft year, teams panic and they wonder what the finished product is. They begin to second guess themselves and overthink the pick. And that's when disaster strikes in your draft room. So not always, but sometimes teams do overthink things when it comes to production. Tynan Lawrence was another example. He's actually at Boston University now. He got promoted to captain of the Muskegon Lumberjacks after missing the early portion of the season, but he enrolled at Boston University early. So he is getting some college hockey experience. You're now seeing players go from the USHL straight to college in the winter because football players do this too. They'll start out, they'll enroll early in the winter semester to get acclimated with the campus, even though they're not a freshman until the fall of that year. They'll enroll in like January or December to make sure they're familiar with the environment and all the surroundings. So they don't have to transition to that when it comes June, July, time for summer, and they're all settled in. So you're starting to see basketball players do the same thing. But yeah, now it's becoming common in hockey. Ethan Belchitz, this guy went from 6'4", 220 to 6'5", 227. I know his production's not as dominant as it was, but he had 38 points last year, and this year he's got 46 and 12 fewer games. But people are basically saying, oh, he's not getting 70 points, but he's playing very dominant offensively and defensively, playing a very good two-way game, and he's got ideal size for an NHL winger. Former number 1 pick in the OHL draft back in 2024, Belchitz. So I think Belchitz is probably a top 10 pick in this draft. In any other draft, he'd probably be a top 5 pick, but this top 6, top 7, so top heavy. Daxon Rudolph was a preseason number 8 player for me. There's only 3 out of 15 scouting services that still have him in the top 8. But the crazy thing is he improved on last year. He went from 41 to 54 points. His plus-minus ratios also improved. So if you're improving that consistently, I can't sit here and move you down. I'm not going to move you down. I won't move you up if there's competition living up to expectations, but I'm not going to move you down either. It's ridiculous how some of these scouts are moving players down and they're actually improving from last year. Like, what else do you want? I mean, consistency, availability is the best ability, and consistency is also important. So if you're improving from last year, you're doing something right. Lars Steiner, this is probably the first faller, like the first big faller. This guy was in my preseason top 10. He went from 60 points. He's only had 26, but he's going to go to Switzerland and mature and develop overseas. So he'll probably fall out of the top 10, but I think someone will roll the dice on Steiner. Vigio Bjork, second best Swedish player in the class behind Stenberg. He's going to go in the top 10. But yeah, not the 9 players in the top 10 that Anthony and I agreed on at the beginning of the year are still projected top 10 picks according to my board, according to the production. So if you're picking in the top 10, it is going to be a good draft for you. And if you're not picking in the top 10, this is where it can get a little bit chaotic. But it sounded like you wanted to say something, Joey, before I'll just read through the list so we can get to football quicker if you want to. But you did unmute yourself for a second, and you sounded like you wanted to say something. So
I just said whiskey when you asked what more I can want.
Okay, fair enough. Xavier Villeneuve, I was not a big fan of Villeneuve, but this is a guy who won the Emil Bouchard Trophy in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League as a rookie. 62 points, 50 assists as a rookie defenseman. Kind of small, though. But I feel like he's a boomer bust player. He's got the traits of a first line defenseman offensively, but the physicality you want. He's got the size of a third line defenseman. He's like 5'10", 165, but we've seen guys that small, like last year's Rookie of the Year on Montreal. Oh shit, who am I? I know his name. I know his name. It's the Montreal Canadiens second-round pick defenseman, Rookie of the Year. Shit, I'm literally having a brain fart at the worst possible time. Canadiens Calder Trophy winners. Okay. Lane Hudson. Lane Hudson was a guy that, yeah, he was 5'10", 165, but he was number 1 defenseman on the U.S. national team. I saw his tape when he was on the U.S. national team. I knew the guy was going to be a star. Then I got the privilege of watching him in college when I saw Macklin Celebrini in person with Andrew. He was making an impact in that game. So I knew when he got to the NHL, he was going to be a star. And guess what? He beat out Macklin Celebrini, his Boston University teammate, to win Rookie of the Year last year, despite being a second-round pick. So, Villeneuve, I don't get the same vibe with him that I got with Lane Hudson, though. But his offensive production, 50 assists, I can't ignore that. I still think he'll get picked in the top 20, but I wouldn't take him at 11 now, knowing what I know now. Colin Fitzgerald, he went from the Peterborough Petes. He went from alternate captain to being traded to the Greyhounds. Only the Hockey News had a preseason top 10 grade on him, still as a first-round grade on him outside of us. Like, I haven't looked at round 2 yet, and there's I know Steve Ellis, he came out with a top 64 article right before I did for Daily Faceoff, and Anthony submitted updated rankings of draft prospect hockey to Elite Prospects yesterday. But Fitzgerald's a faller. And this is the problem with this draft. After the top 10, you get a lot of fallers in the 11 through 16 range. So the teams that are not in that lottery are going to get screwed unless they do their homework and find a player they like. Brady Wasselin, another guy who he got traded to the London Knights, 39 points as a rookie, but he only has 32 points this year. And he got traded from Niagara to London. Mikey Burchild, this is a guy on the U.S. national team that Ron Mont, who we've talked with Joey, actually interviewed on his YouTube channel. I'm not going to play the interview, but you can go to RNJ Media and check that out. And outside of us, Hockey News, and Hockey News is Ron Kennedy and Ron, there's a lot of people that are fading Burchild. I mean, he's only at 11 points in the USHL. Those aren't great numbers. He's done better in the U.S. under-18 team, but his 18 points there are not great either. So, I mean, he is the best player in the United States national team, but his chances of getting picked in the first round are waning. And I still think he could get picked outside the top 25, but that's based on what I'm hearing in the interview process. That's not based on what he's doing this season. That's based on what he's doing in the interview process. And sometimes that can keep you in the first round. If you underachieve, but you interview exceptionally well, sometimes that will still get you picked in the first round. Adam Nemec, he was the younger brother of Simon Nemec, the Devils' number 2 pick back in 2022. He had 57 points last year on the under-20 HK Nitra team. Never got promoted to the HK Nitra's main roster this year. 15 points in Tipos. Let me see if Williams still hasn't gotten my text. But yeah, outside of the Hockey News, we're the only site that has a first-round grade on him. But Adam Nemec improved from his 7 points on the HK Nitra main roster to 15 points on HK Nitra's main roster this year. And he's had 11 points in 9 OHL games with Sudbury since making the transition from Slovakia to the Ontario Hockey League. So I can't sit here and say Adam Nemec deserves to move down in the draft. There's a lot of people that are disappointed with the fact that he went from 7 points against men in Sweden versus kids his own age to 15 points. And now they're basically moving him out of the first round. This is the only player in the top 15 that's been consistent outside of the top 10. So you can't sit here and tell me he deserves to move down. You can debate whether he deserves to move up, but does he deserve to move down? I don't think so. And then Mathis Preston, he was a third-line winger last year when he dominated. He gets promoted to the second line in the top 6, the production dips. So a lot of the people that had him, only 3 scouting services. There were a lot of scouting services, like 8 or 9, that had him in the top 10 in the preseason. Only 3 have him in the top 10 now. 12 of them have him in the top 16, which is where I had him. So a lot of the scouts, the 3 scouts that don't have him in the top 16 include Elite Prospects. They're considered the Hockey Authority. Craig Button of TSN and Sam Constantino of Sportsnet. He does the NHL draft analysis on NHL Network for day 2 of the draft. Like, he does all the picks, the commentary, the breakdowns. Constantino's basically the Mel Kiper of hockey. So all those guys, and Button was the former GM of the Calgary Flames. He was assistant GM to Bob Gainey and the Dallas Stars, so director of scouting. So, I mean, Button and Constantino do not think Preston's a first-round prospect. So I'm kind of curious to see what happens with him, because you got the consensus, and he's going to have opportunities to get back in that top 10. You've got the WHL Prospects game on February 18th, and you also have the NHL Combine. Oh, and the NHL Draft's in Buffalo. So the players can go straight from the NHL Combine, which is in Buffalo each year, and just stay in Buffalo for 2 weeks until the draft. Chase Reed, Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. This is a player, he's going to go to Michigan State, but he's improved from his 40 points as a rookie to 46 points. Shooting was his one major area of improvement heading into this year, and he's beginning to master that area of his game. It was once his biggest weakness. It's slowly turning into a strength. He was 6'2", 185 entering the year. He's added 2 pounds of muscle. I've seen him as high as 4th overall. I think there's going to be 2 defensemen in the top 4. The question is, who's going to be that second defenseman after Verhoff? Is it going to be Ryan Lynn? Is it going to be Daxon Rudolph, number 1 pick in the WHL draft? Is it going to be Chase Reed? Or is it going to be the next defenseman, Carson Carrells, who's 19th on my list? Beckham Edwards is 18th. He had 45 points as a rookie. He only has 31 points this year. He's projected to barely improve his total to 46 points at the end of the year. There's still 6 out of 15 scouting services that have him in the first round, but we have the highest grade of him among those 15 scouting services at 18. That tells me I should probably move him down. I take consensus rankings with a grain of salt, Joey, because like you, I trust my own evaluations more than what scouts are saying. Carson Carrells, this is a guy, 6'2", 194. He had 35 points as a number 1 defenseman on the Prince George Cougars last year. He's already at 40 points this year, and he only had 6 goals last year. He's at 12 this year. If he's not taking the NCAA route like Chase Reed, Carrells is going to get to the NHL quicker, and that's why Carrells, he's in that conversation with Ryan Lynn, Daxon Rudolph, Chase Reed. Who's going to be the number 1 defenseman? Because who's going to be that second? Because you got 6 number 1 defensemen, but after Verhoff, the consensus best defenseman, who's already got a year of college hockey under his belt at North Dakota, you don't know who's going to be the second defenseman off the board or the second. You've got 6 guys with potential to develop into a number 1 defenseman, but you don't know who's going to be that number 2 guy or who's going to have the quickest path to the NHL after Verhoff. And I do think a second defenseman is going to get bumped up into the top 5. It's possible that we see all these defensemen go in the top 10, much like 2 years ago when we had 5 defensemen go in the top 10, and then there was a massive drop-off. Actually, there was like 6 defensemen in the top 12, but there was a massive drop-off after those 6. Number 20 is Joe Aginla. Joe Aginla's Jerome Aginla's youngest son, the younger brother of Tisha Aginla, who was 6th overall 2 years ago. He went from 16 points last year to 21 points this year. He has not recorded a point since being traded from the Edmonton Oil Kings to the Vancouver Giants, but NHL Central Scouting has him 124th among North American skaters. He's improved from last year. Yes, 16 points to 21 points. That's not the leap you want to see, but he's Jerome McGinley's kid. I think Jerome McGinley has a daughter that plays hockey too. He's got the family ties. And Jerome McGinley is one of the greatest players in NHL history. So, I mean, Joe McGinley is not going to fall in the 7th round. Maybe he doesn't go in round 1, but Lions has him going in the 7th round. He's not going to fall that far. He's Jerome McGinley's kid. He's not going to fall that far. Yeah, the 21 points are not encouraging compared to the 16 last year. I'd like to see that number a little bit higher, but the positive, he's improved, but he could drop to round 3, he could drop to round 4. Right now, this is my number 1 target for Dallas in round 3, because Dallas has 4 picks. They have round 2, round 3, round 5, round 6. Joe Aginla, my number 1 target for round 3. Landon Nyes is interesting because this is a guy who was 3rd-line defenseman on the Matt Waterloo Blackhawks. Then he gets traded to Sioux Falls Stampede, was their number 1 defenseman on tape last year, played 25 minutes on the ice. So he might have, outside of Verhoff, he has the best stamina of any of these 7 defensemen. Also, he's the number 4 defenseman on UMass, only 1 goal, 1 assist, has had trouble transitioning from the USHL to college, but his floor is a number 4 defenseman at the NHL level. His ceiling's a number 1 defenseman. If you put him on a team like Dallas where he can develop at UMass and you've got like 4 defenders under contract that you've drafted, 3 until 2029, and then Liam Bixel's an RFA in 2027. If you put Nick Knights on a team like Dallas, you give him all the time in the world to develop at UMass, then you bring him up to the Texas Stars, and then you bring him up to Dallas and you make him earn anything, he can be a success, and there won't be as much pressure on him to be that top-line number one guy. And he can start as a bottom-pairing defenseman and work his way up when he's ready. So I don't understand why people are moving him down. I think it's probably the 2 points, but the tape, I've watched his tape last year, his tape at UMass. I love what I see. This is a player I'd pound the table for. And yeah, with him only having 2 points, this is a guy who's all over the place. I had a first-round grade on him in the preseason. Tankathon had a second on him, and third was Lyons at a third on him in the preseason. Lyons has moved him up from 96 to 70. Tankathon's moved him down from the second to the third round. I still think he's a first-round talent, but it's looking more and more likely that he's going to fall to day 2 of the draft in rounds 2 through 7. So, Nyes, because he has the ceiling to be a number one defenseman, I am higher on him on the consensus. Sam Rinzel took 4 years to develop. The Blackhawks 22 first-round pick that was drafted 24th or 25th overall, he took 3 years to develop. But he finally blossomed at the end of last season with the Blackhawks. So that's kind of the trajectory I see with Landon Nyes. And I think the ceiling may be Thomas Harley, but his floor is Sam Rinzel. Really like his game. And again, if you have good defensemen in your NHL lineup like Dallas, like Colorado, and you don't have a first-round pick like Edmonton, like Vegas, you can be patient with this guy and let him develop at college. So if you're one of these teams that has a first-round pick that's in a win-now mode, there's actually greater incentive to draft Landon Nyes because of his upside. Yes, he's raw, but his upside's huge. 6'2", 203, so the size is not an issue for a defenseman. Simon Katalicki, 52 points last year, only 14 this year, but he's versatile enough to play both winger roles. There's only 3 out of 15 scouting services have him in the top 31. Pierce Mabois is interesting. Undersized player, but he went from 50 points. Only 5 scouts that have him in the first round. Oh, he's going to go replace Gavin McKinnon at Penn State. So he's going to develop at Penn State before making the jump to the NHL. Elton Hermanson, 14 out of 15 scouting services have this guy in their top 24. And Elite Prospects, which is considered the authority on NHL draft content, does not. And I found multiple Swedish players that Elite Prospects missed on. Arseni Ilyin, he showed a lot of promise last year, but unlike Ginla, who improved, this guy actually got worse. He got traded from St. Petersburg to Spartak Moskva in the MHL. He got worse. He's ranked 124th among European skaters, and that's like a 6th or 7th round grade when you factor in that most teams draft North American, Canadian, or American players over Europeans because they develop quicker. And you don't have to deal with the contract issues when they come to the United States. Number 26 is Cooper Williams of the Saskatoon Blades. This guy had 57 points as a rookie, and he flashed. He's a very super fast skater. Reminds me of Nate McKinnon, Connor Bedard, former number 1 picks from a skating standpoint. Only 39 points this year. His plus-minus ratio has dipped from plus 19 to negative 2. That's a big reason why he's in the second round of most mocks now. But Craig Button and myself both still have a first-round grade on Cooper Williams, and Cooper Williams is going to go to North Dakota in 2027. So an NHL team, they're going to let him develop in the WHL, then let him take the college route. And with more of these potential if you're not a top 10 pick, it's probably OHL and college now, Joey, because you're seeing the NHL change. You used to have to draft a player and sign them by the time they turned 20. Now, unless they were in the NCAA, now you don't have to sign a player until they're 22. And if they're not NHL ready by the time they're 20, they can go to college for a few years and develop. So that's definitely why you're not going to see these NHL players you're not going to see these NHL draft prospects in the NHL under the age of 20 unless they're a top 10 pick. That's just because the development cycle's closer to baseball than it is football or basketball. And again, that's a big thing And with NIL, you're seeing hockey players choose college. More players choose the college hockey route versus turning pro early. Nils Bartholdsson finally got promoted to the SHL, but he had 0 points in 4 games. Maddox Deganay, he was the number 1 pick in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. Went from 26 points as a rookie to 40 points this year. His plus-minus ratio has improved from negative 22 to +9. My right, it's hard for me to see with my right eye. My right eye is my 20/20 eye, and there's a sty up in my right eye. So it is harder for me to see everything. 6 out of 15 scouting services have him in the first round. Thomas Churenko, Adam Nemec and Thomas Churenko, they were teammates on HK Nitro. I saw them interviewed together. Nemec was ahead of Churenko in the preseason. Now Churenko's ahead of Nemec in most scouting services. 10 out of 15 have him in the first round. I still like Nemec better, but both those Scandinavians are going to be guys that could potentially get picked in day one. Marcus Nordmark, 14 out of 15 scouting services have him in the first round. He finally got promoted to the SHL. 1 assist in 4 games so far against men, not kids his own age. Because if you're in Sweden, you got to go against you got to prove yourself on the under 16 team, the under 18 team, and the under 20 team before you get promoted to the main roster against men. So and when I say main roster against men, you're competing against 21-year-olds, 30-year-olds. Shit, if there's a player in Sweden as good as Jager, you're competing against him. So that if you can prove yourself at that level against the best, you're a first-round guy. But there's not many players from Russia that get the opportunity to play in the KHL. They're mainly MHL guys. There's a lot of Swedes in this draft. Adam Valentini moved from center to left winger, but he got worse. And I had him at 31 in my initial mock, but when I watched his tape, I saw a guy with the floor of a fourth-line player in the NHL, ceiling of a second-line player. So that grades out as a third-line player on the back 6, just based on the projections. So that's the top 31. The last 2 players are Oscar Hemming, a Finnish right winger that just got a scholarship to Boston College, and Ilya Morozov. Ilya Morozov is 6'3", 205 pounds. He is a first-line center on the Miami, Ohio Redhawks. He's gone like 13 games without a goal or assist, but he still has a first-round grade despite having 7 goals, 7 assists. I do like his tape, but it's just not consistent. It's like Dylan Larkin during his freshman season at Wisconsin, and he got better after his freshman season, but he's been mainly a bottom 6 player. A lot of people thought he'd be a top-line player. He's been a solid bottom 6 player, though, and that's kind of what you're going to get with Morozov. But, yeah, I'll have scouting reports on Morozov and Hemming next week on Draft Prospect Hockey, and then once I do those, I'll try to do the Morozov report tomorrow. And then once I knock those out, I'm going to update the top 63 and then maybe an updated mock draft on Draft Prospect Hockey. I will have a 7-round NHL mock on Draft Utopia. Maybe I'll update the simulator. Maybe I won't. We'll see. But, yeah, that's the NHL content. Thank you for bearing with me on that, Joey. And now we're talking football. And we are only talking football for the duration of this show. I don't know why the MLS list is up. Let me get out of screen share. Give me a second. William's here. Shit. Did I leave William on hold? God damn it. What the hell is wrong with me? Did I leave William on hold? Hey, sorry about that. Did I leave you on hold? Shit, how long?
About 30 minutes.
Sorry about that. What do you think of my NHL rant before we get into the Senior Bowl?
Oh, no, you were going, dude. That was definitely a good one, man.
I mean, we went through everyone in our preseason top 31, and we were trying to figure out where each of the 15 NHL scouting services had them ranked. Because Elite Prospects, they track every scouting service except us, Draft Utopia. And we try to use that as a gate to gauge where each player is ranked consensus-wise. And I know there's an updated top 64. I know there's some guys who've moved up into the first round that I haven't watched tape on. I'll get to them. But Senior Bowls today, it's the bar mitzvah for a lot of college football players. And as a reward, we will do the draft simulator after we talk Senior Bowl. at noon. That is your reward for putting up with my hockey bullshit, Joey. Don't think I don't reward you for putting up with my hockey content. I do. I am not a ruthless, cold-hearted bastard. I am not Heihachi Mishima with pubic hair. I am loyal to my team when they put up with my shit. But yeah,
If I'm here, I should be, but we also got to look. It's like I was invited late last night to go somewhere and watch the Royal Rumble. I'm not sure where I'm going, but
so, well, if that's
and
the
you
case,
just
if that's the case, we'll talk Senior Bowl for an hour, and then we'll jump into the Draft Simulator 11 because I don't know when you're going to have to hang out with your friends. That way you can make your picks, Joey. All
that
right?
works.
Okay, but yeah, who's the player in the thumbnail of the Senior Bowl? It's Kyle Lewis of Pittsburgh. This is a guy I actually mocked 9th overall to Seahawks in August, but he did everything well on tape in 2024. Dominated man coverage, dominated zone coverage, blitzed, stopped the run. He did a lot well in 2024. 2025, Jeremiah Love made him his bitch, and I had Kyle Lewis ahead of Jeremiah Love in my preseason mock. I know Jeremiah Love was the best running back in college football. Okay, I knew that entering this year. Okay, I watched enough of his sophomore tape to know that. But I just love Kyle Lewis, and Lewis is looking like that guy here in Mobile at the Senior Bowl. So I think, Kyle Lewis has had a great week. Okay, here. There we go. Stop sharing. And yeah. Kyle Lewis has had a great week in Mobile. I mean, Jacob Rodriguez is still my top player from this Senior Bowl, but Kyle Lewis has had a great week at the Senior Bowl as an edge rusher. And there's a lot of questions about where Kyle Lewis is going to play because he was a 34 outside linebacker at Pittsburgh. But, his size, teams are questioning it. He does everything exceptionally well on tape, but there's some talks he's going to convert to corner or safety. And I don't think that's the right decision, but there's talks he's going to convert to linebacker instead of edge rush. There's going to be a linebacker instead of an edge rusher due to his size. And Kyle Lewis, he's 5'11", 224. That's not he can be an edge rusher in a 34, but in a 43, he's a pure outside linebacker due to his size. And there's some teams that think he's too small to play linebacker, and he's a better fit at safety due to his coverage. So Lewis is a guy. He can play edge. He can play 34 outside linebacker. I think I saw him line up as a 34 defensive end and a nose tackle on one play last year against West Virginia when I watched his 24 tape. So this is a guy who does it all at a high level. So, I mean, we'll see what happens with Kyle Lewis. Bryce Bottinger was good. Let's start with the quarterbacks, though. I talked about I broke down each position with William on Under the Bleachers. I would say right now the top QBs entering this game are I have Diego Pavia at 33 on the simulator. I thought he had the best week in Mobile. The number 2 QB from this list on my simulator is Luke Altmaier, who I just moved into the 4th round today. I have the simulator up to 120 players at the moment. And then I'd say Nussmeier's 3rd. And I still think Sawyer Robertson had some moments this week as well. But Robertson's going to start out as a backup, maybe 3rd string, depending on the team he goes to. A lot of these guys that are day 3 picks are going to start out as number 2s. Even if they've got potential to be QB1s, they're going to start out as QB2s just due to the structure, due to the fact that it's not a great QB class outside of Mendoza. But I'd say Pavia, Altmaier, and Nussmeier are my top 3. But Robertson and Payton both had respectable weeks. But Payton and Taylor Green have the 2 biggest hand sizes of these quarterbacks. They're the only QBs with 10-inch hands. Garrett Nussmeier actually is the smallest hands of the QBs, but Diego Pavia is the only QB under 6 foot. So you've got the practices, you've got the tape, you've got the measurables. What else do you need as far as the talent goes? Because I've seen Pavia go through all 6 progressions. I think Pavia is really refined in the sense that, I think Pavia is a guy a lot of people are sleeping on, but his attitude, he went into a strip club and said he should have won the Heisman instead of Mendoza. That rubbed some people the wrong way. So, he's going to have to make up for it. Interviewing well at the Senior Bowl this week. He's got to interview well at the Combine too. Scouts who saw he interviewed well at the Senior Bowl after his hiccup during the Heisman, they're going to make him jump through more hoops at the Combine. And he's probably going to have to jump through some hoops at Vanderbilt's Pro Day. And Clark Leah interviewed NFL Network too. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with Pavia. But William, Joey, you got any thoughts on this QB group?
No, like you said, man, it's lacking, it's just about that simple, I mean.
Yeah, it's a lackluster group. I see a few traits here and there with each of the different QBs, but overall, not enough traits to make me say, dang, I want to take this guy in the 5th round. Most of these guys are like 7th round picks. Okay, 6th, 7th round picks. And obviously we've seen 6th, 7th round picks turn out to be pretty darn good.
I mean, only
but
2 of these
QBs need a lot more.
I think that says something. Pavia and Altmaier were the only 2 QBs to crack my top 120. Top 120 overall. And a lot of people disagree with how high I have Pavia. But Altmaier I have in the 110s. So that's a little bit more realistic in terms of a projection. But yeah, if only 2 of my 6.
A shorter version of San Francisco's starting quarterback. I mean, it's, and that's saying something because.
Are you comparing him to Purdy? Because the quarterbacks he models the game after are Johnny Manziel and Baker Mayfield. Those are the 2 guys.
If you're going with Johnny Manziel, that makes him undraftable. Okay, I do not want my quarterback snorting cocaine and getting drunk in a hot tub the night before the game, and the coach has to go to his house and drag his ass out. Okay, I do not want that. So if you're going to compare him with Johnny Manziel, that means he is undraftable.
He models his game after Johnny Manziel, but he loves the fact that Baker doesn't put up with any shit. He loves that as well. And unless he went to a situation where he learned under Baker, he's going to be in a position where he's going to have to do too much too soon. He's going to be thrown into the fire. But yeah,
I know that whole Johnny Manziel thing. You just need to throw it out. Johnny Manziel never read a playbook. He's admitted that. He didn't know what he was doing 90% of the time. He just made shit up on the fly. And this is stuff he's admitted. So if you're patenting your game after Johnny Manziel in any way, that knocks you down, in my opinion, and that makes you development weapons. Because that in itself is just one of the stupidest things a person could do.
And look, while Pavia is my QB2, Altmaier was the only other QB to make the simulator. And after Altmaier, among this group, I'd say Nussmeier is probably the best QB among this group. And I have a 5th on Nussmeier. He was my number 1 pick back in August, and now I have a 5th on him. I think that says something.
Yeah, I was never impressed with Nussmeier. So I think I'm glad you came around to.
I'm not saying he's undraftable. I mean, I had him at number 1 almost as long as Willie. Me and William had him at number 1 for a very long time, up until the end.
I'm not going to dismiss that. I mean, it's just that you guys had him way higher than he should have been. I had him in the 2nd round. You guys had him like 1st overall, whatever, and he dropped on all our boards. So I mean.
I think part of it was I waited to move him down. I really didn't pay as much attention to the pre-draft process on a weekly basis as much as picks, because I'm getting picks up every week during the NFL season. It's short week, 16-week games, and you gotta watch the tape, let everything digest. So, all right, let's talk about the running backs. I think this running back group is very interesting, but I think there's 3 running backs from this group in my top 120. right now. I had Nick Singleton as running back 2 behind Jeremiah Love in the preseason. Now my highest graded running back from this group is his teammate, Katron Allen. I have Allen at 64 on the draft board. And then I have Singleton. He's the only other running back in the simulator. And I do have a 4th round grade on Levy and Moss, but he did not crack the top 120. But he's one of the best players left on the board. Probably going to be one of the next few players that gets added. Probably going to be the next running back that gets added to the simulator. But he didn't do the weigh-in, and I'm not sure if he left practice or just chose to limit his participation, because Reuben Bain Jr., I think he went to Mobile to do interviews with teams, but he didn't practice. And John Vogel said, you can't do that anymore. That's the rule. But I did not see Reuben Bain Jr. any of the drills, and I'm guessing he only went there to interview with teams. So, because if you're projected to go as high as Reuben Bain Jr., you have no incentive to play in the practices if you know you're going in the top 5. So, but yeah, I like Allen, I like Singleton, and I like Moss. The rest of this group, I'm not as high on as far as running backs go. And last year was the 1 through 7 running back group in terms of the draft. And I think next year's running back group is really strong as well. I think there could be as many as 4 or 5 running backs that end up in the first round next year if they all continue to play at the level they played at this year. But they won't, because teams will game plan around them and force them to adjust, especially if some of these guys lose QBs. So, that'll be fun, but that's another conversation for another day. But outside of the Penn State running backs and Moss, is there a running back from this group that impresses you? I mean, Jaden Ott was a guy we were high on initially a few years ago, but I really didn't feel like he did anything this week. He didn't really move the needle for me.
That was one thing with Jaden Ott is, he just kind of looked like one of those players that had some intrigue to him, but besides that, he hasn't really done much, just like you said, man. So, and it was, the draft class last year was just absolutely, night and day compared to this year.
Kyle Monangai was my running back 4. I had him in the top 50. People were laughing at me. He fell to the Bears in round 7, and Chicago has their replacement to DeAndre Swift on a rookie deal now.
Yeah, and it's like I said last year, I mean, there were going to be starters taken in, or starters available in every round, and there were, I mean, it just came out that way, and so many running backs last year, just show up.
Yeah, and there were a laundry list of running backs. Okay, I've got the full list of players that won Player of the Game as a rookie this year. Starts with Cam Ward, first pick. Then it goes to Will Campbell, Mason Graham, Browns when he beat the Steelers, Kelvin Banks, 9th pick, Colson Loveland, 10th overall. Then it's got Emeka Egbuka, 19th overall. Jackson Dart, 25th overall. James Pierce Jr. James Pierce Jr. was 26th overall. Malachi Starks, 27th overall. Maxwell Hairston, 30th overall. Jihad Campbell, 31st overall. And then Josh Simmons, 32nd overall. Ashton Ginty, we almost gave him Player of the Game, but I think we gave someone else Player of the Game in Week 18 against the Chiefs. I'm not sure who it was. I'm not going to look it up right now. Jaden Higgins won Player of the Game. Texans 34th pick. Nick Eamon-Wari won Player of the Game as a rookie. Judkins 36th overall pick. So neither of the first round running backs, Hampton or Ginty, won Player of the Game as rookies. Judkins 36th overall won it. Trevion Henderson 38th won it. That's 2 running backs. RJ Harvey had the Sunday night game where he had 100 yards against the Raiders. He was Player of the Game once, but wasn't spectacular. Cam Scatterby was Player of the Game again early in the season before his season injury. So that's 4. Jaquavius Marks I was not high on Woody Marks, but he did win player of the game. He did take the starting running back job from Nick Chubb. You have to give him credit for that. I mean, there were a lot. Nixon was injured. Nick Chubb was injured, and he just took the starting running back job. So you have to give him credit for that, even if you didn't like his college tape. Manon guys, that's 5, and Krosky Merritt. So that's 6 rookie running backs that won player of the game. And that's not even the first round running backs that got picked, you know? So that shows you how good last year's running back group was. Like you said, William, it was just very deep.
Oh, very much. And, you know, one day if a real, you know, superstar comes out, I mean, it's going to be known as one of the greatest draft classes for running backs.
There are some guys I like that aren't in the Senior Bowl that were very close to making the top 120. I mentioned Le'Veon Moss. He's at the Senior Bowl. He didn't make the cut for cracking the simulator, but he's very close. Jamal Haynes, Damon Claiborne, Anthony Hankerson. So there's like 4 running backs that I had a 90 for potential on that still haven't cracked the top 120 because there's just so many other guys in this class and there's so many other positions of need that are going to take precedent over running back. So that's just the reality with this group. But I want to jump to the receivers. You got anything you want to add to this running back group briefly, Joey? Because I want to get to the receivers. Receivers, my best receiver among this group is Notre Dame's Malachi Fields. His ability to catch the football in traffic, I saw him in person against Pittsburgh. He is my wide receiver 1 among the Senior Bowl group. I have a 3rd round grade on him. His ability to catch the football in traffic is very good. So I'm looking at him, and I got you, Joey. Malachi Fields is very good. My number 2 receiver. All right. All right. Welcome back. But my number 2 receiver after Malachi Fields that cracked the draft simulator is Josh Cameron out of Baylor. And I went back and watched Josh Cameron's tape before I texted Joey this morning. I think the only other guy outside of Carnell Tate that I saw run all 30 routes consistently this year and last year was Josh Cameron. And he plays on special teams too, which is a bonus as a punt returner. So, yeah, that's a guy I wouldn't blame a team for taking in day 2 because of that ability to not just play special teams, but he can 6'1", 223, 10-inch hands, can play run all 30 routes in the route tree, and he can play punt returner on special teams. Another receiver that cracked my top 120 is the Georgia Southern receiver. Ted Hurst of Georgia State. I went back and watched him. There are some people that think he's a top 10 receiver in this draft. I counted 22 out of 30 routes on the route tree when watching his Georgia Southern tape. And he had a good week at Mobile. He got open. He made some big plays. 6'3", 207 pounds. Big body receiver, can run 22 out of 30 routes. Hurst is a guy who could get picked on day 3, and he could end up having a better career than Chris Lace. He could end up having a better career than Denzel Boston or the Louisville wide receiver. Not Colin Lacey, but the other guy, Chris Bell. I'm serious, Joey. This is a guy, Ted Hurst. He could end up going on day 3, and he could end up having a better career than Boston or Bell. He could, because Joey pointed out some issues with the underclassmen, Boston and Bell, when watching their tape. I think Hurst could end up going day 3 and having a better career. I think that says something about Hurst. And I'm going to put him in round 5. The receiver William told me about, I have an 89 on him for potential, but I am going to put him in round 5, and that is Jacoby Lane. That was Williams' standout among this receiver group. So,
for sure. I just happened to see a little bit of film, and my Niners kind of need a receiver, and man, this guy is like, he's like freaking Spider-Man, dude. Like with contested catches and just everything. Like he doesn't gain as much separation as you think. That's probably why, you know, people have him rated a little bit lower. But man, I mean, does he ever come through on these catches? And I mean, high point the ball and such. I mean, the guy's like 6'4", like what, like 215, 220, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
maybe not that.
And I have
like
Kevin Coleman in the 4th round ahead of Lane, but he did not crack the top 120 of the draft simulator, which we're going to use today. So Coleman, you know, I like him, but he didn't crack the top 120 because there just weren't a lot of teams that needed receivers at that point. But yeah, Joey, if you're here and you want to comment on the running backs and receivers at the Senior Bowl, you can. Otherwise, I'm going to get to the tight ends. Oh, you are here. The mic's just not.
Yeah. My mic's on?
No, now it's on. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the running backs, they haven't impressed me that much. A little bit as a group, but not much. The receivers, there's a little bit to be impressed with there first, as you named. He was good. And I think just from watching what I've seen, these seniors are going to have to prop up this wide receiver group because these guys, these underclassmen, the more I watch them, the less I like them.
Yeah,
so
just in terms of consistency on the route tree. Yeah, I've seen Mekhi Lemon run 18 routes, but he doesn't run. He can run all 30 routes in the route tree. Same with Jordan Tyson, but heading into his draft year, Tyson only knew 15 routes. Lemon only knew 18 routes, and they had to learn the other 12 routes of their 15 routes this year. They haven't mastered those routes. And there's
Lemon is a different type of receiver. I just recently watched him tape. He is mainly going to be used in the slot. And he's not looking to be that outside receiver. But what he is probably a more explosive, not explosive because he doesn't have the takeoff speed, but once he gets going, he's a faster version of Puka Nacua.
Wait.
And so you're looking at a wide receiver that's really he's a slot guy, but he's like Swiss Army knife.
Is that Lemon you're referring to? Just curious.
Yes.
Okay, because there's 4 receivers I have in my top 20. I have Tyson at 7. I've got Lemon, I think, at 8 or 9, and then I've got Tate at 17. But Tate's the most consistent route runner of the group. Youngest receiver, best work ethic. But I think Lemon and Tyson have higher ceilings, but they're going to require more patience and development. You're probably going to. I think Tate's going to be a very good wide receiver one. He'll reach his ceiling in 2 years, but I don't see a blue chip receiver. I think Lemon and Tyson can develop into blue chip receivers, but it's going to take 3 years for Lemon. It's probably going to take 4 years for Tyson, and it could take longer if medicals and injuries occur once he's in the NFL. So there's a lot more risk with those 2 receivers when you consider the fact that they're both older than Tate. But yeah, I really like.
Tate is going to be the best of them, and
because he has the best floor. He doesn't have the best ceiling, but he has the best work ethic, the best floor. He's the most NFL ready.
Well, I've been watching Tate for years, and I said a long time ago he was going to be a stud, and so I might be a little biased, slightly, just a little. I've been known.
I saw the same things you saw when I watched his tape in the summer.
But we all know I tend to be biased about guys I watch most tape of. So
yeah. So
I don't think
Cameron's a guy that could end up being the steal of this draft. Like after Tate, he might be the best route runner in this draft, and he plays special teams, which is a bonus. So what can
coach special teams, it's always going to be a bonus. I mean, who doesn't want a special teams ace? I mean, let's face it. The Rams just recently said, "How do we get better at special teams? Let's hire the worst special teams coach statistically in the NFL over the last 2 years." Special teams is kind of important.
The Niners didn't do that. The Rams did. I got the two California teams mixed up. The Rams hired.
No, I said the Rams. I said the Rams, didn't I?
You said Niners. I heard you say Niners. I don't think you meant to.
That was my bad. Yeah,
they're both
that was
in
my
California. It's an easy mix-up, but William's scowling at you. He's disgusted that you would put Trone into the 49ers.
I'm sorry, William. I didn't mean, it's like I've been trying to get somebody to lend me a rocket so I could shoot him into the sun for a while. I didn't mean to put you in that position. That's my bad.
I basically texted you the other day that Bubba Ventrone might give Sean McVay a tumor. He might. That's how.
Oh yeah, and I text back that I believe it. Like Bubba Ventrone's going to put Todd McShay in critical care. So if you hear something about Todd McShay going to the hospital, just know Bubba Ventrone's one fault.
Star Wars analogy to describe how dysfunctional this Rams coaching staff is going to be with Bubba Ventrone when LaFleur, when Shieldhouse, or when Shula tries to teach Bubba Ventrone something, it's going to be like Yoda trying to teach Jar Jar Binks the way of the Jedi. If you want a Star Wars analogy.
It's going to be tough. I mean, because right now you have Shieldhouse and Sim who are primed to be potential head coaches within the next couple years.
I would say,
and then you have Bubba Ventrone.
I'd say,
and then you have Bubba Ventrone.
Closer, but the thing is, even though
it doesn't matter who's closer. What matters is you got them trying to teach Bubba Ventrone something. That's what matters.
Yes.
And that's where it's going to go off the rails.
Yeah. LaFleur is the offensive coordinator. Shieldhouse is the defensive coordinator. I mean, Shieldhouse is the passing game coordinator and then defensive coordinator. But yeah, McVay, we'll see. And they only fired the special teams coordinator because of the punt return fumble in the NFC Championship. Tight ends. There were only two among this group that impressed me. Justin Jolly, you have a second-round grade on. Tanner Kozoil, he was my preseason tight end 3. Those are the only two that impressed me in Mobile this week. There are some other tight ends in this class that I do like, that I'm genuinely a fan of, but
yeah,
the only two that impressed me this week.
This definitely isn't going to be, last year's class. It's got Colson Loveland and Tyler Warren and Rondé Gadsden all the way down the line, Mason Taylor and all them.
I've got 2 first-round grades on Kenyon Sadiq and Eli Stowers, but neither of them can run all 30 routes like Loveland or Warren. These guys can basically run 10 routes, but they're better pass blockers and run blockers. They're better at blocking than last year's tight ends, but is much more limited.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously the last few years there's been so much more of this and teams trying to get into, taking advantage of mismatches and just having that versatile player. But, only so many teams either use multiple tight ends or, have their tight ends as more than an afterthought, as a receiver. So, and obviously Sadiq, I mean, that guy is just an absolute, when it comes to blocking, I mean, he's got a mean streak for a tight end, I mean, that's not, if you get around.
You mean he's talking like George Kittle things?
He's not the happy-go-lucky like George Kittle guy. Like if you happen to get around him or make him look like a fool, like one play, the next play he's going to put you face down in the grass, and I like that.
Because the George Kittle thing, because when you said that, I was like, that's the anti-George Kittle, and I just remember him flying through the air with the greatest of ease when Myles Garrett shivved him that one time, and it's like, and then he was like small and meek for the rest of the game. It's like I don't see, like you said, I don't see him. If somebody shivs him like that, he's probably going to get up and punch you back.
Yeah.
So that's why I say the anti-George Kittle thing, where you do that, George Kittle's going to back off a little bit.
Yeah, we'll get to the next position, the tackles. There were 2 round 2 guys. There were 3 round 2 guys for me. I had Jennings Dunker at 30. I've got Jennings Dunker at 34 on the draft simulator, and there are a lot of teams that were wowed by the Iowa right tackle this week. I've got Cage Casey, Boise State's left tackle in round 2. I've got J.C. Davis in round 3 of the simulator. I've got Markel Bell in round 2. But he's got a lot he's got to clean up. But those are and Trey Zuna, I've got him in round 2 as well. So there's a lot of guys of this tackle group that I like. But at the same token, you got to take it with a grain of salt. And it does come down to how many teams are in the market for tackles, how many teams are going to extend their tackles, how many teams are going to let their tackles walk. It's going to be an interesting offseason in that respect.
If somebody lets their tackles walk and they've got good tackles, then I have to question some things.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's 20. I think there were 20 tackles that won Player of the Game on Draft Utopia, which is a record, and that's just at left tackle alone. There were like 5 right tackles that won the award as well for our individual Player of the Game, best player on the winning team. I think Rasheed Walker, who's a free agent, won Player of the Game once for the Packers. And he was awful against the Browns, but he had a good game 1 week out of the year, I think, against the Vikings when the Packers hosted the Vikings in the first meeting. I don't remember the exact week, but I know he got Player of the Game over Jordan Love 1 week. So if you trust him over a 16-game season, you can sign him and overpay him, or you can draft one of these guys if you like them more. That's what the draft is for. So, we'll see. And we had a lot of tackles. We had just as many tackles win Player of the Game as we did running backs this year as rookies. So,
yeah, that's saying something right there, man.
Because I think we had all the first-round tackles outside of Josh Connerly win Player of the Game, Ursery of the Texans, Ozzie Trapillo of the Bears. It really does say something, William. Well said. All right. You want to mention any tackles? I'm going to get to the interior offensive line unless you want to mention some of these guys quickly, Joey, since you're a former tackle.
No, a lot of the guys I saw at tackle got pushed backward way too much. I like the interior guys. The exterior guys were like, you got pushed back a bit. I don't know if it was because of the fact that it was an all-star game or what, but it was not a good look. So,
yeah,
I will reserve judgment
I've
on
like 10, 11 tackles in my top 50. Joey's got like maybe 2 in his top 30 and 5 in his top 50. I don't know the exact numbers in front of me, but I'm going to focus on the interior offense.
And the Miami of Florida offensive tackle, I've got him more after watching the national championship game. I've got him more as a guard. So
both are just because there's 2 tackles in Miami that declared for the draft. There's the left tackle and the right tackle.
Right tackle, Malaga, or however you.
Number 1 tackle in this draft now that Carter Smith went back to Indiana. So he's now the top tackle in this draft.
I wouldn't put him a top tackle. He got his ass kicked in the national championship game.
From a ceiling standpoint, he's the top tackle, but he's also very raw in terms of his technique. So
I would rather have him as a guard because I think he could be a very good guard. But as a tackle,
high school, and he couldn't win the left tackle job as a freshman at Miami, but he was good enough to be a day 1 starter as a right tackle for the last 3 years. So, all right, let's get to the interior offensive line. There are some players in this interior I like. Jake Slaughter of Florida, he began the preseason as my number 1 center. I ended up moving him down to 3, not because he's bad, but because Logan Jones, the Remington Award winner, and Pat Coogan, the Rose Bowl MVP, have just been that good at center. So he's now my center 3, but all 3 centers are my top 50. Keelan Rutledge made the top 120 of the draft simulator. I have him. He's the final player to crack that top 120. And Bo Stevens of Iowa is 63 on the simulator, the Iowa Hawkeyes left guard. Those are my standouts among this interior group. I wasn't impressed with the other guys on the interior, but those were my 3 standouts. I think, and both the Chargers and Panthers are going to need centers, so I won't be surprised if we see multiple centers go in round 1. And if the Ravens take a center at 14 to replace Linderbaum, it's possible, Joey, not likely. I'd give this maybe a 20-25% probability, but what if we had a center run in round 1 where Logan Jones, Pat Coogan, and Jake Slaughter all get picked in the first round? If the Ravens take a guy at 14 to replace Linderbaum, and then the Panthers do the same thing, and then the Chargers let Bozeman walk, and they draft a center at 22, it could happen, but I give it a very low probability. But I'm not ruling that possibility out entirely either, since I have all 3 centers in that group in my top 46.
Yeah, I'm not as big a fan of that.
Yeah, from a value standpoint, I don't agree with that. Let's get to the defense. We'll start with the edge rushers. This group, it's a really good defensive line group. Just to state how good this group is, TJ Parker, who I have going 13th overall, 14th in the top 15, preseason number 3 player. He's in this group. Gabe Jacasa's in this group. I have a 3rd-round grade on the Illinois 34 outside linebacker. Derek Moore had 10 sacks at Michigan. He dominated this week. I have him at 32 in the draft simulator. Donnie Dennis Sutton, I have him in the 3rd round of the draft simulator. He was a 1st-round grade back in the midseason. Romello Height, I have a 4th-round grade on him. I have him at 111 on the draft simulator, but he had 10 sacks at Texas Tech next to David Bailey. David Bailey had 24 sacks. So that should tell you how good Texas Tech's edge rushers were. Logan Fano was a guy I had in my 2027 mock, but I guess he declared early as a sophomore redshirt. I still think he needs to develop a little bit, but there were some scouts that praised him, and Tyreek Sapp's another guy that probably will at some point get out of the simulator. I somewhere in round 5, I'm guessing. But yeah, I think it was a pretty good defensive end group. And Reuben Bain Jr. did interviews at the Senior Bowl, but he didn't practice. So yeah, that's the group as a whole, as the edge rusher group. I'm just looking at the guys that are projected as defensive ends. I'll look at and Kyle Lewis and Jacob Rodriguez are both linebackers that have experience playing edge rusher in 34 outside linebacker roles. They're both in my top 100 as well. So, yeah. Pretty good group, regardless of what scheme you run. It's a pretty good group, William.
For sure.
You got anything you want to add? Defensive tackles, Joey. I'm looking at defensive tackles next. Tim Keenan, I had him in the second. I think Tim Keenan might be a 2nd-round talent, but he fell to the 3rd round of the simulator from a value standpoint. Tim Keenan is a guy who was getting triple teamed all throughout the year if you watched his tape. Grace Halton, Oklahoma defensive tackle. He's in the 3rd round of our draft simulator. Lee Hunter, I ended up moving ahead of – Lee Hunter was so dominant Mobile, I ended up moving him ahead of Corleone because I've got the same potential grade on Hunter that I do on Corleone, but Hunter just looks better right now. And I have the same ceiling grade on Caleb Banks, the Florida defensive tackle, too. He had a good week in Mobile as well. So there's a few guys that in this defensive tackle group that have made a strong impression that do stand out. There's some people hyping up Zane Durant. I don't buy that hype. I know Durant was a guy we hyped up in the midseason, but I wasn't as impressed with him as I was the other three guys I mentioned: Keenan, Banks, and Lee Hunter from Texas Tech were, without a doubt, my three winners among this defensive tackle group. And Rayshon Benny is the guy that I'm actually thinking about putting at 121 on the simulator. He's 6'3", 296. He's a defensive tackle at Michigan, played with Kenneth Grant, played with Mason Graham, learned under them, started full-time this year. I think he'd be a good player to develop behind Cam Hayward as like a successor, because right now you have you've got some guys from Iowa as depth players behind Keanu Benton, behind Derek Harmon, and behind Hayward, but you don't have that successor. And to Hayward once he retires, Benny would be a good player to develop behind Hayward as like a backup for a few years, and then maybe when Hayward retires, he can take over. Because I don't think the Steelers have a guy who can take over for Hayward among their late round picks once Hayward retires, unless Derek Harmon becomes the man all of a sudden in year 3 or year 4. So getting that, and even if he does become the man, you want a guy that can make an impact next to it, because that's just how this league works. So, so I like this defensive tackle group. I don't know if it's as deep as last year's. Well, this year and last year were both strong defensive tackle groups in their own right. I mean, we said that a few years ago when we were breaking down future drafts. Linebackers. Oh, Jack Kelly, BYU. He's a pure outside linebacker. He can play a little bit of edge. But the best pure Mike linebacker, Jack Kelly's the best 43 outside linebacker. The best pure Mike linebacker in this group is Bryce Botcher of Oregon, and I think he's better than Carson Schlesinger. Look, I had a third-string grade on Schlesinger. I know he's about to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, but I think there's a few guys in this linebacker draft that are better than Schlesinger. The guys in the first round and Botcher. There's a few guys I really like in linebacker this year. There's not a lot of guys, but I'll pull up my middle linebacker rankings. I have 6 middle linebackers in the simulator. I have Anthony Hill Jr. is my middle linebacker. 1, Arvell Reese is my middle linebacker. 2, drafting him as an edge rusher is foolish because he's a Mike linebacker. He's 243. He's not going to play 43 defensive end. If you put him in a 34, he might work, but he's 243. I don't think you want a 43 defensive end, which the Jets run to be like 270. CJ Allen, I had a late second on him. I'm a big fan of Red Murdoch, the Buffalo middle linebacker. I have him in the late second. And then the 2 linebackers that I have Botcher at 101 on the simulator, very first round 4 player. He might go higher than that. And then the other guy that didn't play in the Senior Bowl, but I added to the simulator at middle linebacker is Josiah Trotter. Josiah Trotter, Missouri middle linebacker, is the younger brother of Jeremiah Trotter Jr. and the son of Jeremiah Trotter Sr. So I did add him to the simulator this morning, found that out. I have a 4th on him at the moment, but he's my middle linebacker 6. But yeah, that's the linebacker group. What do we have here for corners? You guys want to? I feel like you guys are just.
Yeah, the thing with me with the linebacker, I am really high in the linebacker group. I really like them. Trotter is a big one for me. I think Trotter is going to be a very good player. So that's one for me that I can say, yeah, that one I can agree with is
because we had to put a 6th middle linebacker in the simulator. It was just too long, and I just learned about Josiah Trotter this morning, and I just feel like he's a better fit for a team like Denver's got the Saints' 4th round pick, but they lose Alex Singleton. So if they don't get a linebacker in the first 3 days and they have to settle for a guy on day 3, I think their best it's either Deontay Lawson or Trotter, and I think Trotter's a better fit I think Lawson could be a really good Sam linebacker like Henry To'oTo'o, but at the same token, I think Trotter is a better fit for a team like Denver if they want to replace Singleton with one of these rookies. So that was my thought process there, Joey. Maybe that's a flawed thought process, but that was kind of what I was thinking. But it seems we're both equally high on Trotter, Josiah Trotter. But yeah, he's not at the Senior Bowl, but I just felt like mentioning him. All right, corners. We're finally on the secondary. Chandler Rivers, I have a third-round grade on. Dan Everett, I have an early fourth on, Georgia corner. Davison Igbinosun, Ohio State #1 corner. I've got a third on him. Chris Johnson, San Diego State corner. He dominated all week. I've got an early second on him. But I told Ian Cummings of PFN he could sneak into the late first with a big week. Malik Muhammad, Texas corner, I have in my top 50. Why did I say Well, I don't even have Colton Hood in the first 4 rounds of my draft. I don't even think he's the best corner on Tennessee. I think Jermon McCoy is. And I had to listen to Jeremiah hype this guy up all week. And he does this every year. He hypes up a guy that I have in the 3rd round or the 4th round like he's a first-round talent. And then when NFL teams agree with my evaluations instead of his, guess what? People still give him the benefit of the doubt because of the company he works for. And it's just like, yeah, I'm not. Colton Hood, and they had Boo Carter.
I figure it was because he was a scout for the Ravens, but
he was a scout for the Eagles. He scouted Nick Foles for the Eagles. He was not a scout.
So he worked for both teams. Okay, well,
Eagles. And then Howie Roseman released the Hounds like Mr. Burns. And that's how he lost his job and joined NFL Network. He
also worked for the Ravens because I know he was a big Bill Billick guy.
Right.
So he might have worked for the Ravens before he worked for the Eagles. And then
I think he worked from the Ravens from 2007 to 2009, and then 2010 to 2012 he worked with the Eagles.
Okay, that's good.
Because I know he worked with the Eagles when they drafted Nick Foles. So I'm guessing if he worked with the Ravens, it was in the 07 to 09 period when they had Flacco, Ray Rice, all those guys that made the Ravens' identity during Super Bowl 47. Michael Orr.
It makes sense.
All right. Corners. We already knocked out the corners. Final position, safeties. Anything you guys want to add before we get to the safeties and then the simulators? So, yeah. William?
Not so much.
All right. Punter, the kickers, none of the kickers are in my top 5. Brett Thorson was my #1 punter. I'll give the Senior Bowl credit for inviting him. Thorson's, I don't know where I'm going to put him on the simulator yet. I'm going to make the simulator more realistic. So, yeah, there will be punters, but they might be ranked like 300 or something. We'll see. Depends on how many players I add to the simulator. But let's look at the safety group. There are some guys. Bud Clark is a guy that I've been super high on. I know I put him in the early part of round 4, but he was a guy that was, at one point in the draft process, he was my #2 safety behind Caleb Downs. Obviously, Dylan Thieneman emerged this year. Manuel Neil Ward emerged. And after those 3, it does feel like there's a drop-off in terms of star power, but that doesn't mean it's a weak safety group. I have 9 safeties in the simulator for the I have Toffee, the Texas safety, as my #4 safety. He was at the Senior Bowl, 2nd round. He's my only 2nd-round safety, Toffee. And then I have A.J. Halsey as safety 5. Mod Moses as safety 6, Shrine Bowl. Alford's my #7 safety. And then I have Jalen Cattle on the Missouri safety in the late 3rd round. And then I have Bud Clark as my #9 safety. I have 4th round. But at one point, when I did the initial safety rankings, because when the Big 12 season previews came out, the only other safety that was getting the type of hype Downs was getting was Bud Clark. So I do think Bud Clark is a bargain if you can get him round 3 or 4, that could be a massive steal. But outside of Bud Clark, none of these other outside of Taffy and Bud Clark, the two big Texas and TCU safeties, there wasn't a guy that wowed me. I do need to rewatch Kamari Ramsey because Ramsey was one of the guys on my short list of players that did not crack the top 120, but maybe we put them in at 121 where Pittsburgh's picking. We'll see. I'm looking at Bentley, the Michigan defensive tackle, and I'm looking at Ramsey, and I'm looking at and I'm thinking the reason I'm thinking Pittsburgh might pass on a safety is they had 4 safeties on their practice squad with Kyle Duggar was starting, and not just that, Peppers was starting too, but they had 4 safeties on their practice squad. Only one of those safeties is making over $1 million. You know who that is? Sebastian Castro, the Iowa safety we wouldn't shut up about last year. He was on the Steelers practice squad, making over $1 million. He might be the starter next to Elliott next year if they go all offense in the first 3 rounds of the draft, Joey. It's possible, because would you rather have a rookie on day 3 if you go all offense early? Because what I'm hearing is Pittsburgh, they're looking at an offensive draft in day 1 and 2. Guard to replace Sumalo.
I'm hearing Mike McCarthy may be inviting people to some unsanitary events just because he's Mike McCarthy and he's been overblown for 20 years. Done absolutely nothing.
And they fired the defensive coordinator. They fired the defensive line coach that developed Cam Hayward and TJ Watt. Oh, and the new Steelers defensive coordinator is Patrick Graham, the former Raiders defensive coordinator. But yeah. All right. You guys have been patient. We'll load up the simulator now. And we'll make this like a consensus pick here. We'll try to we'll each have a GM and rotate, but we'll all try to make it a consensus. We'll try to come to a consensus. If we have different opinions on players, that's cool. But like, I do want to try to challenge us as a war room. Like, if you have a war room and you're on the clock, what's the consensus pick when it comes to that situation? So, all right. I only have the first round up. I have the 120 players in the thing, but I only have the first 30 picks up. I will add the other picks and the I'll update this to 100 after the Super Bowl. But yes, the Raiders, they are going to take Mendoza. We're not going to waste any more time here. We all know that's what they're going to do. The Jets, it's basically right now Arvell Reese is the favorite to go second, but he's only 243. I think he's a better middle linebacker than he is an edge rusher. Joey thinks he's a better edge rusher due to his athleticism, but it's like Ruben Bain is just a better overall player than Arvell Reese. I'm sorry. And this is one where Joey and I agree. Ruben Bain Jr. deserves be in that blue chip category, and the Jets need a blue chip player at number 2. This is not a good draft.
Bain Jr. dominates. Arvell Reese stands up and is easily pushed off blocks. I mean, there really is no comparison to the two.
If the Jets draft Arvell Reese over Ruben Bain Jr., they're going to be handing the Cardinals or Titans a Pro Bowl edge rusher, and we're just going to continue to laugh at Woody Johnson like the Affleck duck, or like...
Well, we were going to do that anyway.
I guess so. But, the Jets, they chose the Miami Dolphins defensive coordinator. The Jets got the Miami Dolphins secondary coach as the defensive coordinator. You know who was the runner-up in that job, Joey? Go ahead. Guess. Who's the runner-up in that job?
Okay. What job was that?
Defensive coordinator to Aaron Glenn. Who was the runner-up to get that job?
Mm-hmm.
It was actually Tanzel Smart, the former Tulane defensive tackle who's been coaching the Cowboys defensive line. He was the runner-up. Him and the Dolphins quarterback coach were the 2 finalists for the Jets defensive coordinator job, and they chose the Dolphins quarterbacks coach over Tanzel Smart, Cowboys defensive line coach, former Tulane defensive tackle, as the new Jets defensive coordinator. I think the Jets screwed that up. I think they should have went with Tanzel Smart. He's been fantastic with the defensive tackles and edge rushers at the Senior Bowl this week. He really has. Like, he's done a fantastic job with them, and I think we got to give Tanzel some credit for that. So I think the Jets screwed that up, not just from a roster construction standpoint, but from a coaching standpoint. I think they hired the wrong defensive coordinator. Maybe this Miami Dolphins cornerback coach will be the right guy, but it feels like Aaron Glenn's going with familiarity, going with a coordinator who knows the same position as him, secondary, versus going with a front seven guy who can maybe branch out and diversify the defense. That makes your defense more predictable. So, again, it's just everything with the Jets right now I don't trust from a draft standpoint, coaching standpoint. Nothing's congruent. I think it's Ruben Bain. We all agree Ruben Bain should go to the Jets. Should we waste any more time talking about the Jets, guys? Or are we
Probably
all?
not.
Please no.
Okay.
Please no.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Dear God, no.
Ruben Bain Jr. is a Jet, and we're on to the Cardinals at number 3. Here's where things get interesting. David Bailey, 22 sacks, but right now the Cardinals do have both Josh Sweat and the edge rusher, Baron Browning. Baron Browning's the 34 left outside linebacker. He's coming back. I think Zaven Collins has a 5th-year tender. No, that was for this season. Zaven Collins is a free agent now because he's a 2021 first-round pick. And then they also have B.J. Ojulari, but he can't stay healthy. 2023 second-round pick entering the final year of his rookie deal. So you can make a case for David Bailey. You can also make a case for Caleb Downs because Arizona's got Budda Baker, who can play strong safety and free safety. And then the other safety that's not as good as Budda Baker, former Alabama safety who got a contract extension over Byron Murphy. He's a UFA. So you can make a case for Downs or Bailey here. You can also make a case for offensive line. You can make a case for Jeremiah Love. If you don't trust James Conner or Trey Benson, you want that Pro Bowl punch you in the mouth running back, you could go with Jeremiah Love here. So what are we thinking, team? I don't think there's a tackle worth picking here. If I'm the Cardinals, I'd rather wait to pick a tackle in day 2 right now.
I think the Cardinals are in for a massive overhaul in the next 2 years. And, we've heard rumors of them trading big-time players, but they're set with Kyler Murray. How you make Kyler Murray look good, you take the running back. And you lean on the running game. I think the Cardinals have a pretty decent run-blocking offensive line, so I go with the running back.
Okay, Joey wants the running back. I know, William, you'd probably take Caleb Downs here, and I'd take David Bailey. So this is the first pick where we all disagree, but we have to make a consensus. So how do we break this tie? What do you guys propose? And how much time do we have to settle this?
So the next best thing I would look to is the coaching staff, but the Cardinals don't have a coach either. So
I will look at the current coaches on their staff, but there's going to be some.
There's going to be upheaval.
There's going to be some renovations, of course.
Renovations, nice way to put it, Chris.
Yeah. Right now, they have Jeff Rodgers as the assistant head coach. Nick Rallis is the defensive coordinator. They don't have a head coach or an offensive coordinator. Drew Terrell, the passing game coordinator / receivers coach, is still on the staff. Israel Wolfork, not a very good QB and former player, is Kyler Murray's QB coach. Yeah.
Yeah, this
nothing
is one
really,
of those things
nothing really stands out. I know both the Raiders and Cardinals want Clint Kubiak, but I think he's going to go to the Raiders because he knows Spy Tech is worked with his dad, Gary Kubiak. And I think Brady's going to put him in a better position to succeed than the Cardinals. So I think he's going to.
I would go with Caleb Downs in this situation as top guy on the board because we really don't know what the hell is going on.
Jalen Thompson's the safety that got extended over Byron Murphy a few years ago. He's a UFA now, and you don't have anyone next to Budda Baker. And I think Budda Baker, even though he's done a good job at free safety, I think he's a better strong safety, and you need that pure center fielder. So, and
for me, it's we don't if we don't know who the coach is, we don't know the direction. So just go with the top guy on the board.
Yeah, my top choice is David Bailey. My number 2 choice is Downs. My number 3 choice is Love. Joey's top choice is Love. His second choice is Downs, and his third choice is Bailey. So William, who is your top choice here? Running back, safety, or Bailey? What are you thinking, William? Because my top 3 and Joey's top 3 basically cancel out. We've got 200 seconds to come to a consensus here.
Yeah, it's definitely not the running back. I mean, running backs can be had in any round. Right. If you're going to build a team, start from the outside in or from the inside out. I mean, or take the best player on the board.
It's even though you really like Bailey, it sounds like you'd prefer to go Downs here because the Cardinals have multiple edge rushers back and Titans need an edge rusher more. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from you. Is that right? All right.
For sure.
Just wanted to double check that before we lock that pick in. And Caleb Downs is the Cardinals pick. And Titans, they need an edge rusher. David Bailey or Ruben Bainal Suffice. They got to get to the quarterback. They need help everywhere. They could use a tackle, but they paid Dan Moore Jr. $20 million for 5 years. They've got Latham on a rookie deal. I don't think they're going to go with a tackle. I think they're going to trust the tackles they have, trust Cam Ward, and expect Dable to fix the offense. We don't know if the Titans are going to stick with the 34 defense, Joey, because Robert Saleh has been a 43 guy. He was a 43 guy with San Francisco. He's a 43 guy with the Jets. He might move the Titans back to a traditional 43 defense. That is a possibility you got to consider. But I still think Bailey's the best player here. The Titans need an edge rusher. I think we're all in agreement on that. So can we move on to number 5?
Yeah, but I also want to, keep in people's minds, they could definitely go with a wide receiver here because Cam Ward does need receiving help.
They do have Elliott Banner and Shamiri Dyke. I don't think either's a long-term answer, but they both have experience as wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2. So they could go with a wide receiver. They could also go with an edge rusher. But I think edge rusher is higher on the positional value pyramid. They could go with a corner. We're gonna go Bailey here, but they could go Jeremiah Love. I accidentally clicked on him a few weeks ago, so yeah. The Titans are going to select Titans get David Bailey. So we're on number 5 now. The Giants. I love Jeremiah Love, but Scatterboot is just much better value. I don't hate the idea of going this route, but my number 2 player is Jacob Rodriguez. So this is going to be a need over value pick more than likely because you're looking at, do we upgrade middle linebacker? Do we upgrade safety? Or do we upgrade receiver? Well, Caleb Downs is off the board, so you're no longer upgrading safety. You're looking at essentially tackle if Illuminor leaves. And I think Illuminor is under contract for multiple years, but if he leaves, I think Illuminor, the right tackle, is a free agent. If he leaves, you're looking at right tackle upgrade, wide receiver upgrade, or a middle linebacker upgrade. So that's the thing.
I think Jackson Dart, I mean,
you have got Neighbors, but you don't have a number 2 in Neighbors. You do have Darius Slayton back, but Wandale's a UFA, and
Wandale is pretty much has been their slot receiver. Whatever that's worth considering all the injuries that they've had, but they have to make something. They have to give Jackson Dart something here. I kind of feel it's one of the things. And
yeah, even though Tate's my wide receiver 3, I know the drill. You two are going to strong arm me into picking him. So I'm just going to get prepared to pick him. I'm not even going to fight it. I know the drill, guys.
Okay, what's happening now that we're strong arming you into Tate?
The Giants. This is a group mock where all of us come to a consensus.
Yeah, the Giants are. Yeah, because I was wondering which.
Or Anthony Hill Jr. But I feel like you're both going to strong arm me into picking Tate. Because if it's a group mock and you and William want the same player, I get no say. I just have to pick that player.
It's a very interesting situation because right now Harbaugh is fighting with his former offensive coordinator or offensive staff, which is completely entertaining to me. I love it. But at the same time, you know what you're getting with Harbaugh, and you know what he wants, no matter who he hires. And you know he wants at least 2 wide receivers that can make plays. That's, he wants a hard-nosed running game and 2 wide receivers that can make plays, no matter where those wide receivers are. He's got one, and he's got a quarterback and a running back who like to lead with their head. Take that as you will. You might need guys where Dark can just throw it up randomly because otherwise he's going to run into a brick wall with his head.
Yep. So it's Tate. So Joe, and Tate's the youngest receiver. So even though I think the other receivers might have higher ceilings down the road, Tate can do the most now. Best work ethic, best route tree, youngest receiver, longevity, checks all these boxes. So Tate is a Giant. All right. So the Browns are up. You want Fano. I mean, my number 1 and 2 players are Jacob Rodriguez and Jeremiah Love, but neither's really a need for the Browns.
And guys, I want you to remember, look who was hired by Moncton on offense. The running game coordinator for the Ravens is now the offensive coordinator, and the offensive line coach for the Ravens was the first hire, and he was hired to be offensive line coach with the Browns. So you're looking at a Ravens-esque offense. So I would look in the trenches, look at Fano. He didn't make the first hire the offensive line coach for no reason.
I do have 2 tackles ahead of him, but Parker may move inside, and you think Maui Go is going to move inside. And Fano was our preseason number 1 tackle when we did the tackle rankings a few months ago. So, William, what are you thinking? Do you want to go Fano here too? Because if you do, like the Giants pick, I have no say, and we move on to the next pick.
Oh, I definitely agree with what Joey's thinking is best for his team.
Yep.
I mean, the guys.
All right, it is Fano. That's how we do things. That's how draftocracy works. Even if I disagree with the picks, doesn't matter. When you have groupthink and you have 3 people in a war room all trying to decide what player to pick, draftocracy rule is you come to the consensus groupthink. Maui Goa and Parker could both move inside to guard. Parker has experience at center. So, yeah, even though they both have higher ceilings than Fano, both have much lower floors. Like, we're talking low 70s, maybe high 60s. That might be like what you're getting as a rookie, and then you have to develop them and make them better. So, best player on the board at 7 is Jeremiah Love. The Commanders, I like their running backs, but I don't love their running backs, and I think Love is a perfect weapon to pair with Jaden Daniels. I know they have Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, but I was not high on Krosky Merritt. I can live with him and Chris Rodriguez Jr. as complementary running backs to Love.
Yeah,
but
there's
Love would
a
be
difference
my pick here personally because I think Love's a massive upgrade over both.
Yeah, for sure. There's a difference between running back that can, just handle the load and a superstar running back. And I mean, this is one of those things that with what's going on, Jaden Daniels, like I said, just the injury risk that he is because the way he runs, You know,
And
I
that's
mean,
the thing. You with 3 healthy running backs, you can basically say, Jaden, here, you're going to be a pocket quarterback now. You only run on first and goal, or if it's a situation where it's a short yardage situation, 2 yards or less, and you're going to stay in the pocket every other play.
Yeah.
I don't like micromanaging Daniels, but we're at the point where he's getting about as injured as frequently as RG3, and you have to micromanage him just to limit the injuries, at least for this season.
Oh, for sure. You know, I wouldn't try to micromanage him so much as just learn how to duck, you know? I mean,
let him play from the pocket. And
so
then
much
if
of the
shows he can stay healthy in the pocket, you can start using him outside of the pocket again.
Yeah, he's trying to be, you know, Cam Newton, and he's not Cam Newton. You know, I mean, Cam Newton was getting the touchdown and the first down when he was destroying his body. Well, Jaden Daniels, he's just going to destroy his body.
You have to eat these as punishment. The chocolate chip, the cookie dough Oreos. I forgot to eat them last week. This is my punishment. I said when the playoffs started, if the Patriots go on a Super Bowl run, I will eat these cookie dough flavored Oreos. They're awful. They are. I call them the Bryce Young of Oreos, the Dave Tepper of Oreos, the Woody Johnson of Oreos. They are awful, Joey. They taste worse than the Oreos that made me throw up when I was 8. I love cookie dough. Cookie dough is my favorite ice cream flavor. So,
oh, I can even imagine what kind of flavor they got, man. I can just taste that.
I thought they would taste good because I love cookie dough ice cream, but they are awful.
For some reason, I can just tell, dude.
Are they the Jamarcus Russell? What
I'm
flavor
thinking
is Jamarcus Russell of Oreos?
Like bad cookie dough.
Purple drank Oreos. The purple drank. I think Joey's back.
Get yourself some milk, man.
I'm trying to be back.
Oh, torture yourself.
Yeah, I don't understand this because I'm standing in the house.
Are we going Jeremiah Love, or do you want to go a different direction with the Commanders here at 7? Because this is the player William and I both want to pick.
Aren't they losing one of their running backs in free agency this year?
Eckler, but their other 2 running backs, Chris Rodriguez Jr. and Krosky Merritt, 6th and 7th round picks, are still in rookie deals.
I never cared for Merritt, so I'll go with you guys with Love, because Merritt I never cared for. I love his counterpart, pair his counterpart with Love. I think he's got a great 1-2 punch there as long as you can keep your quarterback healthy.
Yeah, and Rodriguez is effective when he's healthy, but he's more of a number 2 than a number 1. Saints are on the clock. They need a wide receiver. I mean, look at the turnover they had. Oh, I like Olave, but he can't stay healthy. He had like a lung blood clot this year. He's had 6 concussions already, and you're going to have to pay him wide receiver 1 money. You're going to have to 5th-year tender him, and if he doesn't stay healthy next year, you're probably going to have to pay him what he wants to lock him up right now.
Yeah. And like you said,
with his
man,
medicals, I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. So I think and they traded Shaheed They cut Brandon Cooks. Shaheed was the wide receiver 2, and they traded him to Seattle. Then Brandon Cooks became the wide receiver 2. They also traded a 4th round pick to Denver for Devon Bailey, but they just don't have a legit number 2 receiver.
Yeah.
So
and they need one that is physical. You know,
Tyson or Lemon, which I think Tyson's got the higher ceiling, but he's going to take longer to develop. And
Lemon's more physical.
If you want a physical one, you go with Lemon.
Yeah.
Because Lemon is physical. So if you want a physical wide receiver, you go with Lemon. If you want a finesse wide receiver
that's big and take the top off, go with Tyson.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Okay, so
go with the physical one. They've already got
I want Tyson, you want Lemon, and it sounds like this is a push for Joey, so we're gonna do a coin.
Yeah, I'll go with Lemon,
flip a coin,
even though my pick would have been another.
We don't know.
Well, my pick would have been a 3rd guy, but since it's between those 2, I'll pick between those 2. And in that case, the Saints already have a number 1 that's a finesse guy. Get him a physical guy.
Sure. You can flip a coin right now. I was really prepared to flip a coin I was going to flip a coin to decide who the Saints would get, but we'll give him Lemon. He won the Biletnikoff. We'll give him Lemon. All right. I really wanted to do a coin flip, though. The Chiefs, well, they don't need Jacob Rodriguez. And even though I gave them Peter Woods, guess who's a free agent? Marquez Brown. And if you draft Tyson here, guess what? You have leverage. You have leverage when it comes to Rashee Rice's contract extension. Basically, you're saying you're not paying Rashee Rice. You're making Worthy earn that fifth-year tender, and you're basically pushing all three of those receivers to be better for Mahomes if you take Tyson here.
The funny thing would be, Vince McMahon fired CM Punk on his honeymoon. Chiefs are going to fire Rashee Rice while he's in prison.
Yep. So Jordan Tyson, it's
that's
Peter
kind of
Woods
an
or Jordan
interesting thing,
Tyson
man,
for me.
because I
real
remember
defense is Peter Woods.
Andy Reid all the way back to Donovan McNabb, and he had Todd Pinkston as a wide receiver, and that crew that just wasn't, he's never been high on getting receivers that high, and I'm not sure why. I mean, he made 4 consecutive.
Well, right now, your
championship
choice
games
for
back
wide
then with the
receiver
Eagles.
3 with Marquez Brown set to be a free agent, Jalen Royals or Jordan Tyson. Those are our options. And if Rice gets suspended next year, or if he goes to jail again, guess what? You don't have any depth. And
For sure.
And Royals missed all of last year too, so that's the other thing. So that's why I'm leaning best player available Tyson. I didn't think any of the three. I didn't think Tyson or Lemon would drop to this spot, so that's why I'm leaning Tyson over Woods. But I think if we do pick a defensive player, it's Woods. I say we go Tyson here. What do you guys think?
Yeah, give old Andy Reid a high risk.
Yeah, look, I love Andy Reid. I think he's good culture builder. I think he's good at, if you're not a good character guy, he will make you a character guy as long as you're with him. So I think he's a big personality that tends to get people in line just because his personality is one that overshadows everybody else, kind of like a stomach.
Yep. So we'll go Tyson. I'm probably going to mock Peter Woods.
I've just been full of funnies the last 2 days, and nobody's been laughing at it. I am really upset about that. It's like I'm really full of the funnies lately, and nobody's laughing.
I know.
Oh, I was trying not to be rude earlier, but ha ha ha.
Bengals. Bengals have
that?
2 outside.
Not Beavis Butthead enough.
The Bengals have 2 outside linebackers. They have the South Carolina linebacker, Demetrius Knight, is a weak side linebacker, and Barrett Carter's also a weak side linebacker. They trade Logan Wilson, and they had to move one of their weak side linebackers that replaced Jermaine Pratt inside, and they did. It was a disaster. But I think we can pass on Rodriguez here. The question is, do we want Peter Woods or Anthony Hill Jr., or is this the part where Arvell Reese comes into play, or do we go defense? Because they're going to need help a lot of places defensively, the Bengals. So I'm going to let you pitch your cases. For me, it's Woods or Hill, but you can make a case for Delane. You can make a case for Arvell Reese. There's a number of guys. But I think it's mainly going to be a defensive guy that we all make a case for. William, why don't you?
Yeah,
what
this
are you
is
thinking?
a team that Trey Hendrickson's sat out last year, and I mean, just some kind of defensive, boost. Like, this is one of those teams that's been all offense, and I mean, Arrowhead became Burrowhead and this and that and everything else, and now they haven't done anything the last few years. I mean,
my biggest fear is if the Patriots lose the Super Bowl, our window's going to pass and we're going to become the Bengals. So that's why we got to win.
Bengals just need something defense. I mean, they've been getting And even if they don't get beat during the game, when it comes to the last minutes of the game, it's like, oh, we're tired. Let's just let them go run it down and beat us that way. It's like, guys, I don't care what you get on defense. Just get somebody that can chase somebody down if you have to. Because you don't even have that at this point. You got Trey Hendrickson and nothing.
What player on defense would you nominate? We all agree it should be defense. What player? Pick a player, and then we're just gonna.
What's the who's left? Because I think the guy I was thinking about got taken.
Rodriguez is my best player available, but he's a weak side linebacker. The Bengals have two of those starting. So
I'm sitting here looking at it. That's
the next best player.
I'll go with Anthony Hill Jr.
And then after that, you have Anthony Hill Jr. But I know you might like Reese.
I would go Anthony Hill Jr. I really like him. I think he's athleticism.
Linebacker. I agree. Let's go with Hill Jr. Because I think the Bengals have good depth at defensive tackle. Let's go with Hill Jr. They need that enforcer like Logan Wilson.
It makes sense. You know, Texas is probably the top team out of those. You know, whatever you know for recruiting and such. So yeah, I'd definitely go with Anthony Hill Jr.
Yeah, the Dolphins traded Jalen Phillips. They still have Bradley Chubb at edge rusher, and they have Chop Robinson. I'm very tempted to give the Dolphins Jacob Rodriguez because there's some people that say Rodriguez lacks the athletic traits of a true edge rusher. It'd be funny to troll with them like that, but we're not irresponsible. We're not assholes. Mansour Delane would be a good number one corner. You could go Kenyon Sadiq if you want a tight end. What are we thinking for Miami at 11 here, team? We could also go quarterback, too. We could give him a quarterback, but I like Quinn Ewers.
No quarterbacks to take because that was my first pick. You know, I'd give him a quarterback, but there are no quarterbacks there to take that I like at this position.
Well, the new regime might say, you know what, fuck it, we're going to take a quarterback. If there's one team besides...
If that's the case, I'd give him Ty Simpson. Give him Ty Simpson.
I don't like Ty Simpson, but we're not going to...
That's why I wouldn't take him there. But, you know, if the new...
It's not that I don't like Ty Simpson. It's that I've got like 5 other quarterbacks graded ahead of him. I've got Pavia graded ahead of him. I've got Chambliss graded ahead of him, Carson Beck. And I think I've got freaking Joey Aguilar, who may end up going back to college, graded ahead of Simpson. So I've got a few guys graded ahead of Simpson.
Well, you know, I mean, Carson Beck, he obviously liked Miami so much, you know, he went there and
I don't think you were.
Well, here's the thing behind that. He went there because his girlfriend went to the University of Miami, and then he cheated on her within the first week.
And now he's dating a porn star, so he's going to get interrogated by the team.
I'm not quite sure what he's doing.
How did you go from dating your girlfriend, who was a Miami basketball player, to cheating on her, to cheating on the other girl that you cheated on, to now you're in a committed relationship with a porn star? Take us through that experience. They're going to grill him on that. They just want to know why. They just want to see it.
Yeah, walk us through that process, please.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Joey, let me finish. If he answers the question professionally, they're not going to care about his past. If he says, you know what, I have a high body count, but I'd rather talk about audibles, what we do in the huddle, checkdowns, et cetera, they're going to love him if he says that and owns it. If he doesn't, he talks about his history and his problems, his mental problems, and how he's screwed up. They're going to think this guy's a walking time bomb. That's how he's interviewed.
How do you talk about that professionally? Like, yeah, you know, I cheated on him, and I cheated on this one, and I cheated on that one. It's a professional, it's an entirely professional thing.
Basically, Carson Beck, he's now in a committed relationship with a former porn star, and he cheated on his girlfriend, who is a Miami basketball player. So, yeah. I mean,
what I wouldn't want to do to be a fly on the wall in that conversation.
Right. Yeah, that's just one of those things, man. He obviously did whatever.
Michael Irvin's like the motivational coach. Come on, Carson. You just got to go into the interview room and answer the question with all honesty.
I would not want Michael Irvin giving me advice on that situation. That would be way too intense and way too intensive. I do not want that.
All right, but who are we picking for the Dolphins? Oh, shit, we've got under 5 minutes. We've already burned the first 3 minutes. I don't know who we pick here. I know the Dolphins, they took Mason Graham last year, so they're not going to go Peter Woods. They're not going to go Rodriguez. I'm scrolling down the board. I can click on certain positions. Delane is in play. Could go Maui Goa, but I think Austin Jackson's good when he's healthy. Thieneman's an option if we want to get a safety upgrade.
Yeah, but we also have to look at with Mayoga, you can put him at right tackle and guard. So he has that little extra, thing about being able to play both sides, play both ways. Unlike Carson, well, I guess Carson Beck can't play both ways, but we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, Mark Fletcher Jr. if you want a running back, but they've got a Chane. You could go Arvell Reese here and bolster the inside as well. Kenyon Sadiq is probably the biggest need, I would argue. You could also make a case for Elijah Surratt here too if you want a wide receiver 1 with wide receiver 2 next to Waddle with Tyreek Hill gone. So really, I think you go with a playmaker here, but you could also make a case for a lineman. It sounds like you want to go Maui Goa here, Joey. What are you thinking, Willie?
Yeah, I want to go Maui Goa there because the Dolphins do have offensive line problems, and he can play 2 ways, 2 spots, so he can really put in. And I think at this point he's the best player available. So
I would go either Rodriguez or playmaker. I'm guessing William with the tiebreaker vote is going to choose playmaker, but we're going to have to come to a consensus on whether we go Surratt or tight end here.
Yeah, and I think somebody's going to grab Sadiq way too high. He's going to be a good player and such. He still has some developing to do, but if they're having a young quarterback as it is,
I mean, Waller was the starting tight end last year. The depth was atrocious. So you can't run 12 personnel. You can't run 13 personnel with Miami's tight end group at the moment.
Give me Sadiq, man.
Sadiq's the pick. All right. Sir. Cowboys. I like Maui Goa here because if you buy out Terrence Steele, you can plug in Maui Goa. We could also go Jacob Rodriguez here if we want to go best player.
I think Maui Goa, it's gonna be Maui Goa. I mean he's best player on there, and he fits a need.
All
so right. The fact that he has fallen this far is astounding to me.
Yeah, I mean, you got Tyler Guyton. He could push Guyton for left. Well, he can complement Guyton as a right tackle, and you can cut Terrence Steele to save cap space. All right, that is the pick. Maui Goa. The Rams are on the clock here. As much as I'd like to give them Jacob Rodriguez, they've got Byron Young and Jared Verse, so they're not going to go that route. They've got is Puna Ford a UFA? Let me look that up. Does Puna Ford's a UFA? I say we go Peter Woods here. If he's not, we go with the best corner on the board. Could go tackle, but the Cowboys kind of screwed the Rams. Havenstein's a UFA, so the Cowboys kind of screwed the Rams here. Puna Ford is not a UFA until 2028. So the Rams are stuck with Puna Ford at nose tackle. So it's probably a corner if I had to guess. Or, yeah, corner's probably the route we're going unless we want to groom a QB behind Stafford. But I'm guessing we're going corner.
Yeah, that's
good. Yeah, because for me, the Rams passing game is in good hands with McVay and Fieldhouse for the next couple of years. The defense, I'm not so sure about. I think Chris is going to go to the next. I think he's going to take the next head coaching job he can get. So I would want to shore up that defense to make sure the incoming defensive coordinator is ready to roll.
You forgot about LaFleur's younger brother. Is it Matt LaFleur's younger brother? He's the Rams offensive coordinator.
Oh, yes. He is also probably – there's a chance he gets a head coaching job with either the Raiders or Cardinals. So, yeah, I did forget about that. So, thank you, Chris.
You prioritize Shieldhouse over the offensive coordinator, the guy who calls the plays. But no worries. Shieldhouse had better –
Actually, no. Doesn't McVay call the plays for the Rams?
Yeah, but the offensive coordinator is LaFleur, I think. Not LaFleur.
Yeah, LaFleur's the offense. Yeah, there are so many levels to the Rams offense that almost like a corporate hierarchy.
But they need a cornerback one. That was the big issue Tony Mario had all year. I thought Darius Williams was the cornerback one, and then week one he gets injured. Witherspoon takes his job, doesn't give it back. Witherspoon gets injured in the playoffs, and Witherspoon and Forbes both got injured in the divisional round. I felt like that was going to be the reason why the Rams failed, whether it was in the divisional round or the Super Bowl. I did pick the Rams to win the NFC title. I didn't trust the Seahawks, but yeah, the only corners that I have blue chip grades on are Delane and Pons. Delane is bigger, but Pons is better in coverage, but I think he's more of a nickel corner with his size. And the Rams need that true lockdown one. So that would be my argument for Delane over Pons. But if Joey says Pons and William agrees with him, I'll lock Pons in. But I think we agree it's got to be a corner here. They've got to get that cornerback room sharpened up after giving up 300 yards.
I do like Pons.
All right, William. We going corner here, or you want to recommend another position for the Rams?
Let's see. Nah, I'm going to take the bigger of the corners here. We'll take Delane. You know,
that
5'9" kind of. You got to have a real attitude to be 5'9" and play corner.
The Ravens
unless you're
need
playing against
any type of edge rusher they can
receivers.
get. Rodriguez is a great outside linebacker, but I feel like he's not a double-digit sack guy. He's more of a pure 43 weak side linebacker. And the Ravens, they're running a 34, so I don't think he's the best fit. Peter Woods would be a great fit. I mean, Travis Jones, the 22 third-round pick, is at the end of his rookie deal. If you don't want to re-sign him, you could just take Woods and reload. You could also go with TJ Parker at a Clemson, who I think is the best scheme fit at edge rusher. But what are we thinking here, team? I think it's down to Rodriguez, Woods, or for me, it would be Woods, Parker, or Rodriguez. What are you guys thinking though for the Ravens? Any players?
I'm going to have to say, a Ravens pick. They definitely like taking those linebackers in the first round. It seems like going back through, and just trying to decide who that is, whether they think maybe Jacob Rodriguez will be that they can put him somewhere, in their linebacking core.
And they have the former Trent Simpson as their two inside linebackers next to Roquan. So,
yeah.
And Buchanan, I wasn't high on him, but to his credit, he did beat out Trent Simpson for that middle linebacker job in camp as a rookie, as a fourth-round rookie at a Cal. I didn't think he had that in him. So the Ravens are in it. I don't think they need a pure Mike linebacker like Reese. I think you go with I guess you could throw him in as the wild card, but what are you thinking, Joey? Sounds like Williams leaning linebacker.
I would go with William, but I will also say I did not agree. Well, I did kind of agree with the hiring of their head coach, but I didn't like it. So
I like Minner. Minner.
I've never been impressed with Minner.
He's had a top 10 defense with the Chargers each of the last 2 years. I could see him getting the Ravens, because for Super Bowl 62, I have the Ravens losing the AFC Championship to the Chargers in front of their home crowd. So I have Jesse Minner losing to Harbaugh and Mike McDaniel being the catalyst of the Chargers Super Bowl run in 2 years from now.
There's a lot I like about Minter that I think will make a decent head coach. But as far as a defense coordinator, I was not impressed with him. But his organizational skills and such did impress me. So, and I know if I go back to his Michigan days,
it sounds like we're all
really good with that front four. So I would go the top front four guy because that's Minter's bread and butter.
Yeah, it sounds like we're going to go edge rusher here because Williams said linebacker. The question is, do we want Parker at a Clemson or Rodriguez at a Texas Tech? That's what we got to decide as a team, as a consensus, and we've got about 4 minutes to do that. I think Parker's more of a sack artist, which is what the Ravens want, which is why I'd say Parker. I think Parker's a better scheme fit for what the Ravens want to do. But
well, with Jesse Minter, I will give him credit as to he can work linebackers and defensive ends into a defense and rotate them well if they fit the profile. So I think in this situation, I will give him credit and I will say he is good at that and that fits the Ravens MO. So I could go with William on his suggestion in that sense.
And Rodriguez is the best player on the simulator, Senior Bowl player. So we're going to go Jacob Rodriguez. Is that the player you're suggesting we take here, William? Best player on the board, edge rusher?
Yeah, that seems about right, you know.
All right. Okay. Next up, it is the Buccaneers. Best player on the board is Peter Woods, but the Buccaneers have Vita Vea, the human boulder, as I called him, from Crash Bandicoot, coming out of Washington. They also have the Georgia safety and on a rookie deal, and they have Winfield, so they're not going to pick a safety. They're not going to pick Woods. I think Parker, they need a 34 right outside linebacker that can get 10 sacks a year. Parker can play 43, 34, or he can play 5 technique if you need him to. Parker's got to be the pick here for Tampa. They need someone that can get to the quarterback. Everyone's worried about Jamel Dean leaving the team. No, it's like both their rookie corners from Kansas State, Jacob Parrish and Benjamin Morris in Notre Dame did well in limited action. I think they're both going to get better in year 2 next to Zion McCollum. But you need that sack artist. You need that guy who can take pressure off the corners. You don't have that. You have Yaya Diaby, who can get you 5 to 7 sacks, but he's not dominant. And then you have Hassan Reddick next to him, who's a UFA. And you drafted Chris Braswell out of Alabama in the second round. That hasn't worked out. You got to take an edge rusher here. Parker's my top one, but if you like Keldrick Falk out of Auburn or Derek Moore out of Michigan after his dominant Senior Bowl week and you want to make a case for them, I know Tony Mario, our Buccaneers fan at Draft Utopia, hates Clemson players. So if you're saying we should go a different route, not to piss off Tony Mario, I want to hear your suggestions.
Well, the big thing for me is Tampa Bay has one huge problem I don't think people are talking about, is that they're getting old. Okay, their key players are old. They did a nice job last year of addressing it, but it's starting to show, you know. Why did Baker Mayfield get injured in the middle of the year? Why did Godwin get injured? Why was Allen injured? Why are these players getting injured? And here's the thing. They're getting old. Yeah. And if the younger players are getting hurt because the older players are getting hurt, the offensive linemen are getting hurt, the defensive players are getting hurt. You need to get younger.
If you draft an edge rusher and you get the right guy, the defensive rookie of the year, you have a 1 to 2 year Super Bowl window with Baker. But at the same time, once that window passes, you got to retool this team and get younger, like you said, Joey.
And that's the problem. As old as they are, that window is only like 1 or 2 years. If they were younger, that window would be 3 to 5 years. But they are so old at this point, their key players are
if they don't capitalize next year, it feels like the window's going to pass, and they're going to have to retool the team again.
Yeah, they're going to have to nail this draft 100%, keep that window open. They're just at that point.
So do you think we should go in a different direction besides edge rusher? What position are you thinking, or player? Because I know Tony Mario hates edge rushers from Clemson. That's the only reason I have not locked in T.J. Parker. I think he's the best player. He's the biggest need.
Who's that Oregon player that you've got there? Because I know there are a couple Oregon players.
He's a safety. He's a safety. They've got the guy from Georgia. They got the Georgia safety. And they've got Winfield. They've drafted a Georgia safety in 2024.
They did.
They have Tyke Smith.
That would.
Tyke Smith. I'll look at Tyke Smith. I'll look up.
Yeah,
I'll look that up because I like Tyke Smith coming out of Georgia. He did win 2 championships. Tyke Smith ranked 43rd out of 98 corners. If he was in the bottom half, I'd say we go for Thiedemann or we go for McNeil Warren. He finished 43rd. Let's give him another year. Let's leave the safety position as it is. I think we're in agreement on that.
I think you go with what's going to get you a short field. You go with the sack, or you go with the guy that's going to get you turnover.
Reese, Servac, I think Servac Dennis is going to be a UFA next year, and Levante David is a free agent. And if you brought back Levante David, could have him mentor Arvell Reese for a year inside. That's the alternative if we don't pick an edge rusher. So we're looking at TJ Parker, we're looking at Derek Moore of Michigan, we're looking at Falk of Auburn, and we're looking at Reese.
I'm a fan of TJ Parker. He's been impressive.
I love Parker too. I think he's the best fit for Tampa, but Tony Mario does not like Clemson players. Peter Wood, yeah. So that's the problem, but it's a good problem. William, are we going to take Parker? Because Joey and I are kind of leaning Parker. If you say we're
Parker's been. I mean, he's been sliding,
Parker.
dude. Let's take Parker.
All right, no fight, no arguing there. Sorry, Tony Mario. This was the consensus decision our team made. The Jets. Who do the Jets have? Can we get Peter Woods to replace Quinn Williams? I think this is pretty easy pick to make here at 16 after trading Quinn Williams to the Cowboys. I mean, Peter Woods is the only player in my top 10 on the board. Maybe there's other defensive tackles you like more, but
I like it. I just happen to be looking at NFL mock draft database and this one mock that I just pulled up. It's got Peter Woods at 16 to the Jets.
All right. So Peter Woods, the Jets, we're all in agreement because they have Mozzie Smith, but Mozzie Smith is awful. I mean, G. Mansky, a Cowboys YouTuber, he plays Xbox games. He's roasting the Jets for trading for Mozzie Smith. So it's like, yeah, let's go Peter Woods unless Joey has a different suggestion here. It sounds like because William and I want to pick Peter Woods here, Joey, and with Quinn Williams being traded, I'm just going to pull the trigger because I should listen to you. I should hear you out. I'd be a shitty friend if I didn't, but it sounds like we all want Peter Woods, and time is money, and we don't want to waste any more time. You cool with that, Joey? Because this is a team exercise. We're trying to actually figure out. All right, we'll go Peter Woods. I'm just going to – because that was –
Yeah, you're right. It's like I just about knocked over my chair, and I didn't want to have any loud sounds. So that's my bad. But, yeah, it's like I like Peter Woods in this spot.
All right, so they replaced Quinn Williams. The Lions are on the clock. Best player on the board is Dylan Thiedemann. Brian Branch is in the final year of his rookie deal, coming off a torn ACL. You just re-signed Kirby Joseph. If you don't want to re-sign Branch – you could let him walk and draft Thiedemann to be your new strong safety. He is the best player on the board. You could also replace Amik Robertson. Amik Robertson's your nickel corner. You could replace him with Pons. I love that fit. You already have DJ Reed as your number 2 corner next to Terrion Arnold. But Amik Robertson was great his first year in Detroit. This year, he wasn't as good. And I think D'Angelo Pond as a nickel corner in Detroit's just an awesome scheme fit. He's 5'9", 173, perfect size for an NFL nickel corner and the perfect fit for Dan Campbell's defense. So I would say Pons is the pick here, Joey, unless you think we should go a different direction. Pons would be my pick here because I think there is a slim chance the Lions try to bring back Brian Branch. So, but if you don't think Brian Branch is the guy you want to re-sign, you could go Thiedemann here. But I'm thinking Pons. William, Joey, what do you think?
Yes, sir. This is still a little bit high to be taking safeties and such. You know, I mean, Pons seems to make sense. Corners.
All right, Pons. He's Joey's cornerback 1, so Dan Campbell's getting Pons. No, we're not auto picking for the Vikings. This is what Queffy did during the draft. Queffy, I'm sorry, Andrew Berry. I'm sorry for dissing your assistant GM. I mean, he did not get a single draft pick right in his 4 years with the Vikings, and I think he got fired because Darnold took the Seahawks to the Super Bowl. And I disagree with the decision. It was a rush decision, but that's ultimately what led to his firing.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure letting Danny Dimes out of Mini also had something to do with it, you know. And then they end up drafting, you know, JJ McCarthy. It's like, man, they had,
Who's
you know,
my favorite now?
no quarterbacks.
I just heard that I have a favorite of some type.
Oh,
what is my favorite?
I don't
Chris,
know.
you said I have a favorite.
I don't know. The Vikings are on the clock. The Vikings have Josh Metellus at strong safety. Thieneman's more of a pure SS than a free safety that you can groom behind Harrison Smith, so I don't think he's the best fit. Do I like Thieneman more than Metellus? Yes, but the Vikings, I don't know if they can get out of that Metellus contract.
Who is the Vikings general manager? That is the big question. Who is running this draft process?
Vikings interim GM. It is Rob Brzezinski. He's the executive vice president of football operations. He's a longtime salary cap expert.
Okay, because I know when John Dorsey was fired, Elliot Wolf was running the thing, and he was the assistant general manager. So I didn't know if the Vikings had an assistant general manager, whether it was just running up to VP.
It's the president of football operations, but it's a temporary role.
Okay, that's interesting enough. Does he have a football background?
Former salary expert. That's all I know. I don't know if it was with a team or with a company.
So this draft's going to be a train wreck. Okay.
I'm looking at Metellus. He signed a 3-year contract in 2025, so the Vikings can't get out of the Metellus contract. They could draft Mark Fletcher here. I do have a blue chip grade on Fletcher. I moved him up into the top 15. I don't think he's going to go in the first round, but you know, if they don't trust Aaron Jones, they could do something bold, like when the Lions took Gibbs at 12. They could do something bold here, and like when the Lions took Jahmyr Gibbs in the top half of the draft, they could go Mark Fletcher here, get McCarthy a running back. That they could also go in. I think Arvell Reese is the best choice, though. They need that other inside linebacker. They run the 3-4 defense. I think Arvell Reese might be the choice.
The thing is,
Fletcher's a good pick.
It's a president who's a salary cap guy, which is basically an accountant with no football experience. What you're getting is who is top of the big board and who has the biggest name. So in that place, I look at Arvell Reese.
Rob Brzezinski's been with the Vikings since 1999. He was actually the Dolphins salary cap manager when the salary cap first came into play, when they had Dan Marino and all the salary cap came a thing.
He's a salary cap guy.
So he was the Dolphins salary cap guy when they had Marino, when the salary cap first came into existence. Then he became the Vikings director of football administration in 99-2000 when Jeff George was the QB. And then he got promoted to vice president of football administration when Dante Culpepper became the QB. And then Rick Spielman promoted him to executive vice president of football operations, a role he's held for 11 years. And that is his history.
Okay. Well, if Spielman was a football guy, so if Spielman promoted him, he's got to know something about football.
He went to Southeastern University, and he got a Juris Doctor in 95. He was a Bachelor of Science in Education. He also is a member of the Florida Bar.
So he's a lawyer. Fuck. Like, I guess he's good for the Vikings because if they go on another boat or something like that, like they did a few years ago.
His nickname is Rob Zombie, like the artist, the musician, Rob Zombie. So, or is it the song? But that's his nickname.
Rob Zombie. They got Rob Zombie as the president of football operations.
Rob Brzezinski's nickname is Rob Zombie. Yes, that's his nickname.
Oh my god, that is not
respect people have for this executive that they call him Rob Zombie.
Man,
no. It's like, does he walk into the building? Does Dracula start playing? It's like, living dead girl, just as he's walking into the building. It's like, no, I'm not sure how to feel about that. For one, it's
I
pretty
think
cool.
we're just gonna, since we only have 160 seconds to pick, we're gonna go through the board and ask ourselves who would Rob Zombie pick. We're not even gonna go
Who
for
would Rob Zombie pick?
Okay, Mark Fletcher because he's got dreads.
I'm thinking Fletcher or Reese, one of those two. But Joey,
It'd be the one with the dreads, Fletcher.
all right, William.
Fletcher's got nicer dreads.
Okay, it's Fletcher.
Okay.
Fletcher's
Sounds
the
good.
pick. Not arguing with you, Joey, because I have Fletcher one spot ahead of him on the board, so I'm cool with that. I've got a blue chip grade on Fletcher.
I was just on a Rob Zombie marathon last couple nights ago, so it's like I'm just thinking, who would Rob Zombie take? Who has the nicest dreads?
Thieneman would be a perfect fit at strong safety to replace Moehrig. The thing is, Lathan Ransom dominated in the game where Moehrig got suspended. 11 tackles in the fumble recovery against the Rams. He also had the interception against Baker Mayfield. I think Lathan Ransom can be the long-term starter at strong safety, so that's why I'm passing.
You just like your namesake.
Nope, it's not that. I think Lathan Ransom it can be just as effective. And the Panthers, they lose a middle linebacker in Roseboom, who's a UFA. So they need a middle linebacker. Arvell Reese, I think, is the pick here. I would go Arvell Reese at 19.
He's my second cousin, 6 times removed.
Would you rather have Thieneman over Ransom? I'm just curious, Joey. What are you thinking?
No, I'm just making fun of you at this point.
We'll go. Are we going Reese, William? Is that the pick? Or is that final?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool.
Yeah, let's go Reese. It's like Reese is a good player. You know, I think he's just been overhyped for what he is, and he's going to get lower. But he can play inside or outside once he gets his technique fixed. So I'm all for it. Seriously enough, I'm all for Reese.
Yeah. And I promise you, when we get to the Browns and we get to the Niners again, I will let William go through all the positions that he wants to go through. We'll still make a pick, but we'll sort of act as advisors because he hasn't gotten to make a pick for his team yet. Okay, so Malik Hooker enters a contract year this year in 2026. He is how old is Malik Hooker? He's 29 years old, 9 months, 29 days. So he's going to turn 30. He's going to turn 30 this offseason, Malik Hooker. So do we pivot? Do we move on from Hooker and reload at safety with Thieneman? Or we can replace Pickens with Surratt. Or we can get an edge rusher and reach for value. I mean, we could go Keldrick Falk. He's a perfect fit for the Cowboys' 43 defense, but he's basically a raw version of
Who did the Cowboys take before?
We gave them Maui Goa, remember, at 12?
Yeah, because we gave him Maui Goa. So, yeah, the next one would be edge rusher, yeah.
Best edge rusher? That's Joey's suggestion. We can go best edge rusher or we can go Surratt. What are you thinking, William? Surratt would be a great replacement to Pickens, but
yeah,
we gotta come to consensus.
And he would be.
Yeah, but Surratt has to prove he can outrun me first. And he hasn't proven that yet. You know, it's like I saw him get walked down by Iowa's middle linebacker. And after that, I'm like,
Surratt. So, and I have Surratt higher on my board, but I think Falk's a better fit, better need. So what we're going to do? Coin time.
I love
Get
Surratt.
that coin, Chris.
Jerry Jones' fate will be decided by a coin. A coin will decide.
I do want to say, though, I love Surratt. I just think he needs to pick up his knees so he can run faster, or else I'm going to catch his ass.
All right.
Okay, pick up your knees, big man. Pick up your knees. You got great hands. You do everything right. Pick up your knees.
Heads or tails? Who's going to call it in the air? William Jones.
William.
Call this.
William calls it.
William, heads or Williams calls tails. I heard him. It is tails. That means Surratt is the pick. Boom.
There we go.
Yay! Hopefully they teach him to pick up his knees, because if they teach him to pick up his knees, he's going to be a force.
I mean,
Well,
if he doesn't pick up his knees, he's going to be caught easily.
Well, since he's a Dallas Cowboy now, he can definitely, keep his knees, closer to the ground, like flat on the ground, like.
Okay, well that I guess that works. I mean, as long as he keeps them in bounds.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we've seen the knees fly on the ground out of bounds, and we've seen what happens there.
Yeah, Mike McCarthy's about as pissed off as Morty in Gizmos and Gadgets. That's an old computer game. Like, you had to solve math problems. Like in 3rd grade, they had the Gizmos and Gadgets computer game at Marshall Elementary.
We're making fun of Jerry Jones and his selections. I mean,
we can
make fun of Mike McCarthy during the
I'm not making
Steelers.
fun of Jerry Jones. I'm making fun of McCarthy, Joey.
Yeah, we can do that during the Steelers pick.
And the Steelers are on the clock. Steelers are on the clock, buddy.
Okay. Then we can. This is a thing. We can make fun of all who once.
I'm praising Jerry Jones and making fun of the Steelers since they're on the clock. They've got pick 21, and they really needed Surratt. They could get Thieneman, but I don't even know if the Steelers want to draft a safety because they had 4 safeties on their practice squad, and their best one was Sebastian Castro. And it sounds like they were paying Castro over $1 million. They were paying the other 3 safeties $805,000. So if they're paying Castro over $1 million to ride the practice squad, that leads me to believe he's going to be the guy starting next to Deshaun Elliott next season, Joey. Call me crazy.
Yeah, I'm not even sure why Castro's on the practice squad. He's a really good player. But, I mean, that was all.
I mean, they were able to trade for Duggar and Peppers and give Castro that extra year on the practice squad. But Castro's going to be a breakout player for the Steelers secondary, I think, next year.
Yeah, he's going to be really good. I mean, he's going to make some waves. I think the Steelers have a lot of problems.
That's my
are similar to Tampa Bay's problems with the
Logan Jones, but they have Zach Frazier, their 2nd-round pick. They could go Brian Parker. I mean, Parker might move inside to guard. He's a player I'm high on in terms of potential, but Sumalo's a UFA. You could draft him to replace Christian Miller if you wanted a nose tackle and you didn't want to bring back Keanu Benton. That's an option. Sonny Styles, I think he's more of a 43 guy. Falk, you could groom him behind Hayward. The tackles, Steelers are in the worst spot possible. They need a quarterback, pure left guard. They need a wide receiver. I
heard they're going to go with Will from Ohio State this year. So my thought is, are you going to go with a wide receiver to give him help? Because we saw that without DK Metcalf,
I think they're going to do what the Browns did. If Aaron Rodgers comes back, they'll start him. But if he doesn't, they're gonna play Mason Rudolph the first half, and they're gonna play Will Howard the second half, like the Browns did with Gabriel Oshner. That's what I think they're gonna do next season. I'm telling you, if Rodgers retires, that's what they're gonna do. You heard it here first.
Starting Rudolph is like that. That is just like going back to the dry cleaner that just.
But that's what they did with Pickett. They started Trubisky the first 4 games, even though we knew he sucked. And Pickett wasn't much better.
They did. I mean, it's hard to fathom why they would go back to the same thing that's failed so miserably so many times.
You guys want to go wide receiver. Joey, William, are you both in agreement that we're going best receiver on the board, but we're going to look through the list before we decide with no first round guys?
I think so, because I mean, we need to explore all options because they are an old team and many of them are nearing retirement age. But at the same time, if you're going to go with a young quarterback, you've got to find a way to help him.
We're going to go through the entire list. We have about under 2 minutes to go through this entire list. Boston, Brazel, the Tennessee receiver, Conception, Skylar Bell. I don't think he's a number 1 or number 2 on the outside. I do like him. Bell, I know you're not a fan of. Eric McAllister. Malachi Fields, I love his size. He absolutely dominated against Pitt. Him and Love took over that game when I went to see Pitt.
I would go with something I know a lot of people would probably massacre me for, but I would definitely look at John Cameron.
I like Josh Cameron. He ran all 30 routes on the route tree, and he's a punt returner, Joey. And he has 10-inch hands. I have zero objections to that pick, even though I have a 4th-round grade on him. I have zero objections. If Williams says that, regardless of where you ranked him, we're just going to pick him and move on to the next pick. So I have zero objections. I really do like this receiver draft. I'm much higher on this group than 2025. William, what's the call? Are we taking Cameron or do we take someone else on this?
I like Cameron.
All right, cool. Good, man. Cameron is a Steeler.
That sounds like a
and
Steeler.
For anyone who says that's a reach, he checked off a lot of boxes on tape. So it's like, yeah, Chargers.
And not only did he check off boxes, he comes from a school that runs an offense that is similar to many pro-style offenses, including the Steelers.
And when I tagged the Browns thread for Cameron as a round 4 option for the Browns, I was thinking, you know what? This guy's got a better route tree than Josh Gordon had entering the NFL. I don't know if he'll be as good as Gordon, but that's saying something. But let's get to the Chargers pick here. Dylan, they're not going to go Thieneman. They have Derwin James. Logan Jones? Or you guys, the Chargers, is Bozeman under contract for next year? If he's not, I think Logan Jones is the – and the Chargers have always gone offense in the draft ever since they've gotten Herbert. The exception to that is when they took Kenneth Murray with the Patriots' first-round pick, but I'm not counting that because that was not – oh, they extended Bozeman until 2027. I didn't think they extended Bozeman, but Bozeman agreed to a deal for under $2.7 million. So they extended him for 2 years. So I guess center's no longer a need for the Chargers. But I do think the centers in this draft have higher upside than Bozeman. Bozeman's going to be – Bradley Bozeman's already 31, even though he was a 2018 sixth-round pick. He's already 31. So – and Logan Jones, people are saying he's a day one starter. He won the Remington. So what are we thinking here for the Chargers? You don't have to go Thieneman or Logan Jones. Don't have to go Parker. We could go Christian Miller, but their rookie Caldwell did well. Could go Keldrick. Keldrick Falk's not really the best fit. Sonny Styles is not a fit. He's a 43 linebacker. Could go CJ Allen of Georgia. Honestly, I'm kind of torn on what we do with the Chargers here. Because I look at the Chargers, I don't see an immediate glaring need. I think free safety is a need. McNeil Warren might be the player I end up nominating, but I want to look at the Chargers' multi-year contracts, right? But now, before I lock in my pick, we have over 5 minutes to pick for the Chargers. So we're good. We're not in a hurry to pick for them. All right, so the Chargers have weapons locked up. They have Hampton under contract, Herbert. They have their tight ends back. They have Slater, Becton, Joe Alt, Bozeman. They don't have their left guard, Zion Johnson, back, but there's not a left guard worth picking here. Tui Pelotu enters the final year of his rookie deal, but Khalil Mack is going to be gone. Bud Dupree is still under contract, and you have Kyle Kennard, so we could go Derek Moore, edge rusher, Michigan, 10 sacks. That is an option. Caldwell, Justin Egbo-Buke is going to be back. They do need another 34 defensive end. So if you want to take Kendrick Falk as a 5 technique, I guess that works. Dayan Henley and Junior Colston are under contract, but Denzel Perriman's gone. Colston hasn't taken the leap yet. He might next year, but Henley's in the final year of his rookie deal. You have Troy Dye, and Troy Dye's been starting over Colston. All the corners are back next year. Derwin James is back next year. Elijah Molden got extended at free safety, and R.J. Mickens started some games in relief of Molden, and Molden's been playing nickel corner too. So I don't know if there's a specific area the Chargers need. They might just be able to go best player on the board because I don't see an immediate need. But I don't think Thieneman is – well, is Derwin James close to Derwin James is a 2027 UFA, and he's 30. He's going to be 30 later this year. He's born August 3rd, 1996, so he's going to be 30 by the time preseason rolls around. So he's got like one good year left. And I love Derwin James. I mean, he was player of the game last year, but how long is this going to continue? I mean, you can get out of his contract right now and say $17.5 million, which is very tempting.
This is one of the few situations where I look at the Chargers the same way as I do with the Browns because they're both lacking defensive coordinators. So the question is, do you want to go defense not knowing exactly what's going to come in, or do you want to go offense and know what you're taking?
You got
So
Mike
that's
McDaniel
really
as your
the
offensive
best
coordinator.
way.
You have Mike McDaniel as your offensive coordinator, and the Chargers have not drafted a defensive player with their own pick since picking Justin Herbert in 2020. So
that
history
is,
says they're going to pick offense. History says they're going to pick
yeah.
offense in McCarthy. Mike
I
McDaniel.
think they probably should. I think they should too.
So
I think they should go offense.
Logan, I know Bozeman's under contract next year, and he's solid, but he's going to be in the final. He could be a good backup, though, or you could move him over to left guard. Is there a left guard worth picking? I'll look at the guards here. So the Penn State left guard, I know you're higher on him than I am. Ione and Pregnant are both left guards, by the way. We have 140 seconds.
Pregnant's a guy I've been growing on. I think he needs to get more bulk, but at the same time, I think he's got all the prerequisite skills outside of the bulk. I just think he needs to hit the weight room.
The
So
only offensive loss is Zion Johnson at left guard. They have everyone else coming back. I don't know why they got rid of Zion Johnson, but that screams, I guess you have to reach for a left guard here because that's like the only glaring need the Chargers have on offense.
Yeah, and this is one of the things we've been seeing. College players are coming in, they don't have the bulk on them, and that sets them back a little bit, but you know they get the skill set. So is Jim Harbaugh going to take a chance on a guy that doesn't quite have the bulk on him, but you know he's going to be a really good player going forward? And like you said, they got rid of their left guard for reasons that I'm not really understanding. But
I mean, they could take a guy with more upside like a Brian Parker and move him inside the left guard too. That's also an option. And he gives you depth at offensive tackle if you're as depleted. So my argument would be for Parker because it's best player or Logan Jones. But I'd say Parker and Logan Jones would be my top two choices. Joey's top choice would be Pregnant. Ione's probably his second choice. So those four, William, what are you thinking? We've got 52 seconds. Otherwise, auto draft is going to give the Chargers a defensive player.
Give me Parker.
Give them Parker. Brian Parker is a Charger, and he's moving inside the left guard because of his.
The thing with that is trying to figure out.
He played
trying
center.
to figure out, whether Harbaugh's going to pick a luxury pick for something that he sees, or whether he's just going to try to fill out the team, the depth and everything.
But the thing with Parker is he's a 4-year right tackle at Duke, but he moved to center at the Shrine Bowl. So he can start out as left guard, and if you have injuries like last year where either Slater or Alt gets injured, you could just move him over to right tackle, and you don't have to worry about the tackles for Herbert.
Yeah, exactly. And that 100% makes sense with Harbaugh, being the no-nonsense side of Jim Harbaugh. The versatile player that can do all that, man, and an offensive lineman.
The Philadelphia Eagles need a safety. They also need a tight end. But if they draft another white defensive back, they become one step closer to becoming the Vanilla Illa Eagles on the secondary with Cooper DeJean and Dylan Thieneman. Yeah. Just ignore everything I said, Howie Roseman. If you say that in Howie Roseman's face, he's just going to waterboard you until you die. Or you can run out of the building and take your pink slip like a bitch. That's your other choice.
Yeah. I think he's probably just going to run you out of the building, or,
No, he's probably just going to
you with a stick or something,
And unless you outrun him and the security guard on the field.
Oh, yeah, that
Dom.
guy.
Yeah.
Big Dom.
I say Thieneman just because I think it'd be cool to see a secondary with two defensive backs.
There hasn't been any players sliding or anything.
I mean,
has there?
It's Eli Stowers or Thieneman. Those are really the only two options I think for the Eagles here. Unless you got another suggestion. Could go Logan Jones too, but they paid Cam Jurgens. So I don't think they paid Dickerson. So I don't think could go Miller, but if you want to replace Jordan Davis, You could go that route. I don't think there's any other fits though. I'm looking at you could get a successor to Lane Johnson, or you could get a nickel corner. You could get McCoy as a nickel corner. I do like McNeil Warren, but I like Thieneman more, and I think Thieneman's a better fit for the Eagles. So Joey's going to say McNeil Warren. I'm going to say Thieneman. You're probably going to say Eli Stowers. So none of us, but Stowers would be my second choice behind Thieneman. So Joey, what's your second choice or first choice for here? Because I'm trying to figure out what the consensus is. Because I feel like your first choice is McNeil Warren. My first choice is Thieneman. My second choice is Eli Stowers. I feel like Stowers is Williams' first choice. What are you thinking, guys?
Which team is this for, real quick?
Eagles.
Eagles? Oh, yeah, Stowers.
All right, Eli Stowers is the pick. Dallas Goedert's a UFA, and he's in his 30s now. So getting a young tight end on a rookie deal makes a lot of sense for Jalen Hurts. You could go Logan Jones, but I know you like Luke Whippler. You could go Logan Jones, a Remington winner, but I know you.
No, Luke Whippler was, I think, ranked number 3 in pass protection percentage in the last during his starts. It was, Luke Whippler just showed out, and then unfortunately he got injured.
As much as I like Thieneman, he's a strong safety like Delpit. So if the Browns pick a safety, it's going to be McNeil Warren. That's the reality.
I've got one for you. I was really impressed by him on the tape. Alabama, number 1 wide receiver.
I don't even have Jeremy Bernard on the simulator. I think the receivers on
Bernard
the list.
I think Bernard's
great on Bernard. I didn't even put him on the simulator yet. I'm gonna once we get to round 5, but there's other guys on my board that I like more.
It's like this dude was highly impressive on tape. Everything. He was physical. He was, when you get him in space, he not only got extra yards, but he drug people for extra yards. He even scared a South Carolina corner to let him get a touchdown.
Double coverage, triple coverage, catch one-handed plays like Beckham. Malachi Fields in Notre Dame is really good. I saw him in person against Pitt. He is better. He makes Bernard look like a Division III receiver, and that's not a knock on Bernard. Fields is just that good.
Well, if that's the case, why isn't Fields a top 5 prospect? So I think Bernard is that good.
Bernard is not a top 5 prospect. He's a guy.
No, but you said Fields makes Bernard look like a Division III. That would make Fields a top 5 prospect.
He dominated against Pitt. He wasn't consistent throughout the year. Let me look up Malachi Fields. He's better than Bernard. I'll prove it. We'll look at the tape. Look at the production.
Well,
Fields
I haven't gotten along to Fields yet, but
630 and 5 touchdowns. He had 7 receptions, 99 yards, and 2 touchdowns against Pitt. So if you saw him in person against Pitt, he dominated. The rest of his games, he didn't dominate. But the one game where I saw him in person, he dominated. But he's at the Senior Bowl.
Kevin Stefanski was a cornerback at Pitt. Pitt is not exactly known for its corner.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
But yeah, he's not on the simulator. Is there any? Bernard's not available.
William, you're the tiebreaker.
ooh,
Bernard's not available, so we can go receiver, but it won't be Bernard. It will be someone else, though. That's the problem.
Like I said, William's the tiebreaker because
Williams the tiebreaker in most situations, but since the player you want is not available to pick on the simulator, we either have we could pick a different receiver. We could pick a different receiver of your choice, though. I will give you.
I'm wagging my finger at you, Chris. I'm wagging it.
We'll pick Bernard in another edition once I get him on the simulator, okay? I just don't have him on the simulator yet. I've been up to 120 players.
Don't wag the finger.
Yes.
who do we got here?
Finger's wagging.
120 players, Joey.
Who do we have on the simulator?
We've got Denzel Boston, Brazel from Tennessee, Conception, Skylar Bell, Chris Bell. I know Joey's not a fan of Bell. I like Fields, but he only had 1 dominant game. Ted Hurst of Georgia Southern has had a fantastic week in Mobile. 22 out of 30 routes on the route tree. He can throw defenders off in zone coverage, man or press. Ted Hurst, he's had a great week at the Senior Bowl too. Let me look up Ted Hurst. 71 receptions, 1,004 yards, 6 touchdowns. They're comparing this guy to George Pickens without the baggage Pickens had. I'm looking at Georgia Southern's production. He was very consistent. He had 60 yards in every game outside the season opener against Ole Miss. He had 60 yards in every single game outside of the opener against Ole Miss. So if you want a guy who can stretch the field and can run a lot of routes on the route tree, this is your man. He had 71 yards against Vanderbilt in a 70-21 loss. He had 71 yards on Vanderbilt. But a lot of his numbers do come against he had 97 yards against Memphis, 74 yards. Georgia Southern only won one game, but he was the heartbeat of Georgia Southern's one-win team.
Okay, there we go. Sorry, man. I seem to just hit a shit ton of technical difficulties.
Sorry to hear that, William. But what are we thinking here? Ted Hurst, I love his tape. The problem is he's the only good player on a one-win Georgia State team. We go him?
Yeah. Grab that guy.
Is that Joey? All right. Sounds like Williams the tiebreaker here. So the Browns are getting Georgia State wide receiver Ted Hurst. And this guy's better than Bernard. I mean, 22 out of 30 routes. This guy has had a great Senior Bowl week, is great balance, can throw corners off in man zone or press. 60 yards in every game outside of the Ole Miss season opener, where he was held to 1 reception for 6 yards. Williams says we should pick Hurst. And of the guys left on the board, I think he's the most consistent, the best route runner, 71 receptions, 1,000 yards. Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana is another option, Joey, if you want to go with him. Oh, and the simulator disappeared. So, yeah. All right. How much time do we have? I may just have to pick someone. 89 seconds. We have under 90 seconds to pick. This is going to come down to the wire, Joey. Joey, the simulator's going to auto pick for us. God, freaking damn it. I like Hurst, okay? I know he's a small school player, and I know this frightens you. This is because if you fuck this pick up, this is the type of pick where you lose your job. If you take a Hurst in round 1 and you get Troy Williamson instead of Roddy White, this is the pick. That's the type of pick that will get you fired. I'm aware of the risk, but Ted Hurst, I was listening to a YouTuber break down Ted Hurst. They said Ted Hurst is one of the 10 best receivers in the draft. I am his wide receiver 12, but he might be the 3rd best route runner outside of Tate and Cameron. I really like Hurst. I would take Hurst above Bernard. Bernard's not on the simulator. Williams says we should take Hurst. So
give him Hurst. It's like give him who Williams suggests. Before it disconnects me.
Georgia State. The one-win Georgia State Panthers get a first-round pick, ladies and gentlemen. But he's a damn good ball player. You'll find out in Mobile today. He's a better prospect than last year's Senior Bowl MVP, Jack Beck. I would not be surprised if Hurst wins Senior Bowl.
He was considered one of the best players, in the nation at one point, but he was on a one-win team. So I can't argue and I can't be upset with
2 out of 30 rounds, and a person that pulled up his tape said he's one of the 10 best receivers. In terms of route running, yes. In terms of and he does more than that. He's good against man. He's good against zone. He's good against press. He knows how to get separation against each of those coverages.
Jerry Jeudy, if Jerry Jeudy didn't drop passes.
He's Jerry Jeudy if Jerry Jeudy didn't drop passes. He's also George Pickens without the baggage George Pickens has. So George Pickens minus the baggage, which I cannot emphasize enough.
I can't argue the pick. I like the pick. It's just a shame that he was on such a shitty team and nobody recognizes him.
Yep, and the Bears are on the clock. Kevin Winston Jr. is a free agent. Let's go Thieneman here. Let's get them that safety. Kevin Winston Jr. is a UFA, 22 third-round pick. So I don't think the Bears have the cap space to re-sign him. Well, they do, but I don't think he's worth re-signing when you can just reload and get another first-round safety like Thieneman on a rookie deal. And I like Kevin Winston Jr. I think he deserves a second chance somewhere. It's just, would you rather have Thieneman on a rookie deal? I will look up Kevin Winston Jr.'s market value. Deal? Oh, and the Georgia State receiver that we just gave the Browns, Ted Hurst, 14.1 yards per catch.
Yeah, no, obviously the Bears have to do something here.
Jaquan Brisker's a UFA. I'm looking at how much Brisker's 26. He will turn 27 in April before the draft. So Thieneman's younger than that, but the question is, what is Brisker's market value? Because I don't think Brisker was a liability, but I'm not sure he's at 11.1 million. This Thieneman's going to be making less than that the first 2 to 3 years of his rookie deal. He might make 10 million in year 4, but I don't think he'll make 11.1 unless he gets a 5th-year tender. So
I definitely like Thieneman here because
Brisker's a UFA, and do you want to pay Brisker over 11 million to keep him? That's the big question if you're the Bears when you have all these other needs in other areas. Brisker was 23rd out of 98 safeties on Pro Football Focus. No, wait. No, he was 23rd in run defense. He was 68th in pass rush. He was 34th in coverage. Wait, no. He was 34th in run. Let me look this up. This is confusing as hell. So apparently his pass rush grade is 68. Run defense is 23rd. And this coverage grade is 76 out of 98. Run defense is 34th, and then tackling's 23rd. If you're 76 out of 98 safeties in coverage, I cannot pay you 11 million. I can't. He's a great run stuffer, but I don't think that's worth $11 million. 76 out of 98 safeties in coverage. That's what PFF says.
Yeah, for sure. And, getting Thieneman in here, you get yourself a leader of that secondary, somebody to be the future of that secondary.
Here are the numbers. Out of 98 safeties, 21st in solo tackles, 9th in assists, 41st in forced fumbles, 19th in stops, 20th in sacks, 29th in missed tackles, 35th in interceptions, 21st in passer rating allowed, 74th in yards per reception, and he's 76th in coverage, 8th in total pressures, 17th in pass breakups. That's not bad, but that's not $11 million a year production. That's not 11, And I want to look up the postseason numbers for Brisker. He was 1 pressure, 5 receptions allowed, and no interceptions. Yeah. I'm thinking Thieneman here. We just reload. It's either edge rusher, Kendrick Falk, or Thieneman. And Falk is raw. And Austin Booker actually showed some promise. So if you think Booker can be the guy next to Sweat, I think Thieneman's a slam dunk pick here. Joey? Seems like we're in agreement on Thieneman, but I'm just trying to...
Yeah, it's like at this point, it's voting for the future. So, yeah, I'm in agreement.
All right. The Bills, they need a
lot.
They do. I mocked Sonny Styles here. He's still on the board. We could give him Sonny Styles as a replacement to Milano. I'm just trying to double check who the Bills center is. If it's Connor Montgomery,
here's the thing about the Bills. The Bills are in the same place with a lot of top 10 teams. The only difference is they got Josh Allen to cover it up. Okay, so they have a lot of things they can do and that they need So
McGovern's a UFA.
now it's up to the general manager because the general manager is going to.
I thought Connor McGovern was I thought Connor McGovern was under contract for one more season. He's a UFA. So is left guard David Edwards. Well, I know the Bills have the Georgia center as their backup center, who I really like, Cedric Van Pran. But Logan Jones, the Remington Award winner, Iowa, best center in the draft. I'm leaning Logan Jones here, but if you guys would rather have Sonny Styles, let me know. It's got to be one of those two.
Well, the one thing, I'm going to go off in a tiny bit of a tangent here. The Bills need to pick a fucking wide receiver above the 5th round.
But they're not. They don't have any center under contract unless you trust Cedric.
Well, yeah.
5th round.
No. I'm just saying that in general,
And I think Logan Jones and Josh Allen are going to have incredible chemistry, like the chemistry Will Campbell and Drake May have. I think they're going to have that type of chemistry. May's a Virgo, Campbell's a Capricorn, Allen's a Gemini, like William, and Jones is a Libra. So I think Jones and Allen are going to have amazing.
And William, I agree with you 100% because
I've been outvoted.
I think that the Bills, Browns, and Steelers are all in the same category when it comes to wide receivers. The only difference is DK Jones is around
and
on the Steelers, and Allen is around on the Bills.
The problem is he's not.
So I do think that the Bills do desperately need a good wide receiver because Josh Allen, if he gets hurt, that receiving group is going to get exposed.
They need an edge rusher too, but since you guys both want wide receiver, the rules of draftocracy state I have to give you the one on the board here. So just McAllister, Fields, Omar Cooper Jr. from Indiana. Who do you like among this group? There's not a lot of great names, but
there's not.
I'm just trying to think.
Fields or Boston? Which one do you want, William?
Give him Boston.
All right.
Okay. Boston.
Yep. Bills Mafia will be bitching about Boston all offseason, especially if we handle Seattle. So it's fitting that they get Denzel Boston.
Yeah.
All right. And now your Niners are up. But obviously, this is not what you were hoping for as a Niners fan. You wanted a receiver, but it's like these options are not great. Go tight end. I will let you go through whatever positions you want, and I will scroll through all of them with the time I have left.
See, like the bottom line that I've come to on this pick is kind of a how would you put it?
Max Clare, your tight end 1 is on the simulator now, William. So you can get Max Clare here.
You know, of all the injuries this last year, you know, the defensive line that didn't, end up getting us beat by the Seahawks. You know, it wasn't the defensive line. And I mean, don't get me wrong, Robert Saleh as a defensive coordinator, I mean, was obviously, this guy's always got a top 10 defense pretty much. But we're not drafting coaches here.
But they reloaded on defense in last year's draft, and with the offensive coaches all coming back, that leads me to believe the pick's going to be an offensive
and that they
player.
Did. And wide receiver wasn't the problem because, ended up with 14 and 3 record or whatever it ended up. I don't remember. But 12 and 5. I don't know. But it wasn't the wide receivers,
Yeah.
What it comes down to is either the offensive line or the fact that as soon as George Kittle gets his Achilles torn, that all of a sudden, there's no offense. Brock Purdy's back there trying to find someone. Just the whole thing, man. And I think Kittle was the number one injury.
Yeah, and they've got
caused
all
the most
5 of their
problems.
linemen back. They've got Connor Colby back. They've got Pooney
Mhm.
back. Brendel, Colton McKivitz, and Trent Williams are all back next year. McCaffrey's back.
Yeah.
So if they go offense, it's got to be either a receiver or a tight end.
And it has to be. And what I am saying with this pick right here is my number one tight end is Max Clare. And I actually love the fact that he is not being rated that high. You know, people forgot about him. You know, Ohio State, he had what, like 3 touchdowns last year? I don't know. But he didn't get used that much. His body doesn't have that much.
So,
and what he actually showed at Purdue as a tight end, that was him. You know, not so much what Ohio State using their tight end as their 4th or 5th read, you know, or however, you know, they do. So I'm definitely taking Max Clare here.
all right. Great pick. All right. Max Clare is a Niner. So what you always wanted. And I'm guessing you're happy you got to wait and see what would happen with this group.
Well, the one thing that I absolutely, I mean, makes me think right here as Max Clare being a 49er, you know, in this draft is the fact that he wasn't used that much at Ohio State. You know, he might slide down to the 2nd or 3rd round and have the Niners, you know, snag him. And he can be an excellent, you know, day 2 pick if he comes that far down. And because everyone's tight ends between, you know, a true Y, a flex, and an H-back, you know, blocking, inline blocker, just all of it, man. You know, everyone has a different picture that they see in their head.
What do we do with the Texans here? Do we go Logan Jones? I mean, Jake Andrews, he got cut by the Patriots. He couldn't beat out Bradbury or Ben Brown, the backup center, but, you know, he goes to Houston. He beats out Jarrett Peterson and Juice Scruggs for the starting center job. And looking at the numbers of Jake Andrews with the Texans, he was 25th out of 40 centers overall in PFF, 17th in pass blocking out of 40 centers, 67.2. That's slightly above average. And then his run blocking grade was in the bottom 10, 59.5. Logan Jones has a much higher ceiling than Jake Andrews. Do we go Remington winner and get Mr. Stroud some more help up front? Or do we go a different direction here?
I definitely like getting Stroud some more help because, I mean, I like Stroud as a prospect. You know,
I do like Christian Miller as defensive tackle. That's their biggest need on defense. But I would be down with either Jones or Miller at this point. Sounds like William wants Jones. And with the numbers I point out for Andrews, yeah, he can give you one more solid year. But if you really want that star offensive lineman hiking the football to Stroud, you got to go Logan Jones here. You could also take Pat Coogan or Jake Slaughter if you prefer them. But, you know, Logan Jones is the best player on my board. I think this is where he gets picked. If you go middle linebacker, you go right tackle, or you go defensive tackle. Those are the needs, and best player on the board is Logan Jones. So that's what William wants to do, and I'm not going to argue with it. The Rams, another pick here. I don't know what exactly. It's either Caleb Tiernan out of Northwestern or there's a few routes we go. We could go Caleb Tiernan, my top tackle on the board from Northwestern. I love Caleb Tiernan. He needs to be picked in the first round. I do not trust Warren McClendon. Tiernan kept Mateo Ugalele in check, 7 for 7 against him, and you're not getting him as your left tackle. You're getting him as your right tackle to replace Rob Havenstein. Yeah, I could give the Rams a QB to groom behind Stafford, but why not improve the protection? It's not that I don't trust Warren McClendon. He's a good backup, but if Havenstein had been off IR, maybe they beat the Seahawks in the NFC title game. I think he was activated for that. Shit, I was supposed to consult that with you, but I think you guys All right, final pick, Denver, and then we're signing off. Best player on the board is C.J. Allen. They did lose Alex Singleton, so Singleton's gone. Alex Singleton is gone. So right now they have Dre Greenlaw, and they have Drew Sanders, who you like but can't stay healthy. So Jermon McCoy's also an option. Manuel, I thought Brandon Jones was a UFA, but Denver has him for one more year. So McNeil Warren can learn under Brandon Jones, and he can learn under. And we've had McNeil to Warren to Denver for a few weeks now. So for me, it's probably either McNeil Warren or it's Allen. What are you guys thinking? Last pick. Then we are calling it a day. I know Williams tempted to give the Broncos a running back. You don't trust R.J. Harvey. There's other running backs on the board. Sish Bangura had 1,500 yards in Ohio. Are we going to replace R.J. Harvey with an Ohio Bobcat? I'm kidding.
Sean Payton might.
Why is Jonah Coleman listed 33rd? You know what? He should be 39th. The simulator screwed that up, so we're punishing the Broncos by giving them Jonah Coleman. Seahawks and Patriots have not – that draft order is not finalized yet, by the way. So we'll give the Seahawks Jonah Coleman, but I am going to revise the simulator so that does not happen again, because I did not think that would happen again. And I clearly did not double-check that. That is on me. That is entirely on me. And if anyone deserves to be roasted for that, it is me. But yeah, I forgot to add 9 and 39. I forgot to add the 9 and 39. It's okay. We all make mistakes. Jonah Coleman's the running back 2 in this draft, and you don't trust R.J. Harvey, so I decided, you know what, screw it. Let's give the Broncos Jonah Coleman just to make this interesting.
Yeah, I think R.J. Harvey is just too much of a –
Could still be a great number 2 back, but, you want to have that running back on a rookie deal, 5th-year tender. And Jonah Coleman just consensus running back 2 in this draft.
For sure.
For recap, we don't know whether the Seahawks or Patriots. I will quickly recap the draft results, and then we are signing off. So, started off with Mendoza. The Doza's a Raider. Then Reuben Bain Jr. went to the Jets. The Cardinals took Caleb Downs to pair with Buda Baker. David Bailey, edge rusher for the Titans. Carnell Tate pairs with Malik Neighbors, Dart, Scattaboo. Fano's the Browns' new blindside. Jeremiah Love and Jane Daniels. Saints get Makai Lemon to pair with Olav, Kamara, and Tyler Shaw. Healthy offensive line. The Chiefs get Jordan Tyson to replace the Marquez Brown. So now they have Tyson, Worthy, and Rashee Rice in the final year of a rookie deal. Anthony Hill Jr. is the Mike linebacker. Kenyon Sadiq. Francis Maui Goa replaces Terrence Steele. Delane ends up as cornerback 1 of the Rams. The Ravens get Jacob Rodriguez at edge rusher. He's going to be in the Senior Bowl today. TJ Parker's a Buccaneer, another Senior Bowl guy. How many Senior Bowl guys? The draft starts in Mobile. I'm just going back to double check the Mobile guys. So Senior Bowl guys. So far, Rodriguez and Parker are the first 2 Mobile guys. Jets take Peter Woods. D'Angelo Ponce, nickel corner on the Lions. Mark Fletcher Jr. is a running back for the Dolphins. Vikings take him to replace Aaron Jones in a Jahmyr Gibbs type role. Arvell Reese is a Panther, replaces Roseboom. Surratt replaces Pickens. The Steelers get Josh Cameron to be their number 2 next to Metcalf. Brian Parker Jr., he goes to replace Zion Johnson at left guard, but can move into center if Bozeman gets injured, or he can move into right tackle if either Alt or Slater gets injured. So the positional flexibility, and Parker being the highest offensive lineman on the board, he's a Charger. Eagles get Eli Stowers. The Browns, with the surprise pick of round 1, take Ted Hurst of Georgia State. The 1-win wide receiver gets picked in round 1. The Bears, Dylan Thieneman replaces Brisker. The Bills, I suggested a different position, but they get Denzel Boston and hope he's their wide receiver 1. Max Clare is a 49er. Logan Jones, Remington Award winner, is Stroud's new center. Texans get Caleb Tiernan, my Northwestern tackle, can play either tackle spot with his versatility, replaces Rob Havenstein, and then Coleman. And that's it. So, yeah. That'll do it for the draft simulator, guys. I know Joey had to go. I got to go. Senior Bowl's on in 90 minutes. There's multiple events on today. Senior Bowl, NFL Network. There's an NHL doubleheader starting at 1 p.m. on ABC. It's Avs versus Red Wings in Detroit. Look, the Red Wings have not been the same since they left the Western Conference to join the Eastern Conference. And it's a shame, really, because I remember back in the day, the Red Wings, they used to play the Avalanche and the Dallas Stars all the time. And those rivalries in the Western Conference were the shit back in the day. So even though I'm a Stars fan, I can get on board with a Avalanche Red Wings Stanley Cup. I really can, because it's Sakic, Yzerman, Modano. Those were the 3 centers that made me fall in love with hockey as a kid. So I can get on board with if the Avalanche get to the Cup this year, I can get on board if they're playing the Red Wings. And if it Stars Red Wings, this podcast might turn into a rager. We'll see. I'm kidding. I'm not going to get that out of control, but I am going to be pumped as hell. And Big Ten Network, if you want to watch Gavin McKenna in the outdoor game. Yeah, Michigan State's playing Penn State in college hockey. Gavin McKenna, number 1 pick in the NHL draft, actually playing outdoors at Beaver Stadium where Penn State plays football. So nice. Penn State's having a hockey game in their football arena day. That's at 1. So there's 2 hockey games on at 1. 1 college, the number 1 pick in the draft, 1 NFL, and 1 Senior Bowl at 2. So there's stuff to do today. Yeah. But yeah, we're going to wrap it up. It's 12:43. I'm barely awake. I've got enough energy to get a coffee to make sure I don't fall asleep. And Joey had made plans at 1, so we're going to sign off, but we will promote this on social media, and we hope you like.
Hey, so one more thing, man. One more thing. My QB2 seems to always be the Senior Bowl MVP, and actually that is Garrett Nussmeier right now.
We don't have a consensus QB2 this year. I think it's Pavia. Joey thinks it's Simpson, and you think it's Nussmeier, even though I haven't added him to the simulator.
I like Pavia. I don't like that he added up to 5'9", but what do you expect? I mean, that was kind of.
Nussmeier has the smallest hands. He's the only QB with hands under 9 inches. That's a red flag.
He's probably the smartest one, though.
He is.
He's got the most brain power.
He probably is the smartest one, but to be fair, Nussmeier probably is going to be QB 10. I have 9 QBs in the current simulator. Pavia is QB2, Chambliss, and then I have Carson Beck at 4, Aguilar at 5, Ty Simpson at 6, Luke Altmaier is my QB7, Haynes King is my QB8, and Blake Horvath, after that bowl game against Cincinnati, he's now my QB9. But I promise you, Nussmeier is going to be the next guy. I have an early round 5 grade on Nuss, but he's going to be the next QB that we add. That is a promise. And Klubnik's probably going to be QB 11.
The Saints need to let go of my other 2.
I'm curious where Aller. I'm curious where Aller ranks among these QBs. Is he an 89 or an 88? Like where is he graded now that his? I'm just curious where Aller's graded. I'm not gonna go into the rankings right now. I'm just curious: is Aller an 89 or did he drop to an 88 or an 87 after the injury for potential? I'm genuinely curious where Aller is on the QB list. That's why I'm looking it up before we sign off, because
I haven't been hearing much about him.
Yeah, he's just sort of vanished.
Yeah, before the season, he was all up there, and who knows?
Andrew Simpson, North Carolina. I think he's either coming back or entering the portal. I have not heard about him. Avery Johnson's coming back to Kansas State. He's listed as an 88. I'm looking to see who the next QB is. I'm genuinely looking. But yeah, that's interesting. So Aller is not listed anywhere in the That's interesting. Aller's not list. Oh, Aller is an 88 for potential. So just is on the second page. I had to go to page 4 of the search engine database. So Aller's probably going to be in like round 6 or 7, and that's probably due to his medicals. Not that he sucks. It's the fact that he suffered a season-ending injury and he did not get an invitation to any of the All-Star games. No Shrine Bowl, no Senior Bowl. And I don't think it's because they didn't want to invite him. It's because his injury's that bad he can't play during the game. Oh, we have an 89 overall on Baron Morton. So Morton might have a say in whether or not he jumps Klubnik. So Morton is going to be ahead of – I know you love Morton. He's going to be ahead of Aller in the next whenever we update this. But we're going to have all three of those guys, Klubnik, Nussmeier, and Morton in round 5 whenever we update the simulator. Nice. But I'm at 120. I think there's 139 or 140 picks I have to post before I can actually finalize, start looking at round 5 guys. But yeah, we're almost there. But I want to sign off. It's a long day, and I want to get ready for the Senior Bowl. I'm about ready to take a nap, but I can't because the Senior Bowl's at 2, and I think I just need to get some coffee, relax, and energize myself.
There you go, man.
And you got things you got to do too. So we're going to sign off.